videographer.
You're lying.
Just does that work for you, Keenan?
Yeah, actually, a lot of videographers do that.
So they have a good starting
point.
point.
They have, starting in.
Yep.
As you're well aware, though, I'm not a great videographer.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I am no Cheffy. I am no who's the other one? Alex Mai. And I'm definitely no this guy. Everybody bear with me on this one. It's Polisher's Corner Season 2. I think we're going to be midway through this season. By the time this one comes out, I have 2 more to edit right now, I think. Yeah, we have a group 1 that Keenan, Zach, Woody, and I shot the other night. We have a standalone one with Woody coming up. Actually, it'll be out before this one comes out.
Cool.
So hopefully everybody that's listening to this one has listened to that one already.
Right on.
But bear with me with my voice. We just got done with the Waupun Trucking Show. And I'm drinking a lot of water.
Yeah.
Thank you to Northern Chill for that, because I definitely need my water.
Yeah.
My throat's just killing me. We talked to way too many people this weekend. It's a good weekend.
Yeah.
Not too hot.
Awesome. Yeah.
Good turnout. We had the Waupun Trucking Show. We had, I think we were over 350 trucks for the weekend.
Awesome.
It was a huge turnout.
It was
we
a great
literally packed, man.
Yeah.
And the quality of trucks was ridiculous.
I was really impressed. This was my first time to come into Waupun, and I'd heard good things, but man alive, I was blown away. Like, that was super cool.
I think next year, if you'd like to, I'd like to have you come in and help us with judging. We actually started judging a few years ago. We help with the judging board.
Okay.
To help make it better, and we try not to judge classes that we have our own trucks in.
Sure.
So we stay unbiased. Cool. And it'd be fun to have you see that side of the world too.
That'd be a blast. Yeah, I'd love to do that. Time.
Thank you. But let's get down to it. It's not about us. It's about this guy right here. I'm excited for this one. We tried to do it at 75 Chrome.
Yeah.
75 Chrome was busy for both of us.
Oh yeah.
Because you had your own truck there.
No, I didn't have my truck at 75 Chrome. I've flown down, but I pinstriped at the show. Yep. My parents have a second home down in Florida.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. So I was able to fly down there for the weekend, stay with my parents. They live about an hour and a half from 75 Chrome Shop. And I have a paint company, Alpha 6 Enamels, and they were willing to sponsor me. And so I wasn't able to fly with my paints. So Alpha 6 Enamels shipped a whole bunch of pinstriping paint to my parents' house.
That's awesome.
And then I just took my brushes with me in my suitcase and then borrowed my mom's minivan, drove to the chrome shop, and I got a bunch of pinstriping done for the weekend. And
that's too cool.
It was really fun. Yeah.
So let's get into it.
Yeah.
Who are you? What do you do?
Okay.
And where are you from?
All right. My name is Phillip West. I'm from Owatonna, Minnesota. I wear a lot of hats. I'm a trucker. I'm a mechanic. I'm an artist, husband, dad, a lot of those things. But 5 days a week, I'm driving truck. I drive an end-dump trailer year-round in the upper Midwest. We stay within about 5 states. And then we do all of our own maintenance and repairs in our shop.
Really?
And so for 15 years, I was actually an auto mechanic. And then when I switched over to trucking, there's a lot of parallels with big. Yeah. So everything's just bigger and heavier. Sometimes it's a little bit more simple, but I find that being a mechanic in the automotive industry, it helps a lot with working on big trucks.
Wow.
And so anyway,
I guess so.
Yeah. So I help out as much as we can possibly do on our own in our shop. We're doing that. So I'm wrenching whenever I can. I have teenage sons now that are super into cars, and so it's fun to have father-son projects with those guys.
That's awesome.
And we're just constantly getting dirty together and having a good time. So
that's too cool.
Yeah.
So, you want to shout out your wife and kids?
Yeah. Okay. My wife, we got married in '98, and so that's 23 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I'm an old man.
Like I told you last night, I forget that you are just older than me. When you said 98,
Yeah.
I'm like, I think I'm married in high school, and then I'm like, oh no,
Just out of high school.
Just graduated that
we
year.
were high school sweethearts. Actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
That's
and
awesome.
so, my wife Teresa, and then we have 5 kids. So I have 4 sons and 1 daughter.
5
kids.
I thought you had 3.
5. Yeah.
5.
Yeah. We are very blessed. So
Wow.
yeah, my oldest son is Jacob. He's 19, and then next is Luke. He is 16 right now. Third one is Micah. He is 15. My 4th son Noah is 13, and my daughter, the baby of the bunch, is 9. So
What's the baby's name?
Ruth.
Ruth.
Yeah.
Wow.
So all Bible names.
I was gonna say they're all Bible names.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought of when you started rattling through them. I mean, we personally had this conversation last night.
Yes.
I didn't ask the names, which I should have because we were talking on our personal level last night.
Sure.
But
Yep.
they're all biblical names.
They are. Yep. My faith is so much woven into who I am and what I do, and I think when it comes to my career, my artwork, being a dad, all those things, my beliefs, my convictions, it's just so much integral to what that is, what that does, how I do social media, things like that. I try and be pretty open and bold about my faith.
Yeah.
And before I even started with social media and things like that, I wasn't sure how people would take that, because that kind of seems like a taboo thing.
It is. It's a tough thing to deal with.
Yeah. And the whole intention behind me getting involved in social media at all was to try and just showcase my artwork, ultimately. And I thought, I'm going to make a conscious decision. I think we should all probably have somewhat a list of rules for ourselves how we're going to handle social media. Like I'm not going to show my kids. I'm not going to show my wife. But things like that. But I made a conscious decision. Like, I'm going to talk about my faith. And it's been well received. I really have gotten no pushback.
I feel like
I'm thankful for that.
As you get bigger, they may become a little bit more of a struggle.
Could be.
But I feel like since you did it from the get-go, people have come to know who you are and how you are.
Sure.
And I feel like people will be far more accepting and far more easily to listen since you've been that way since the beginning.
Sure.
I feel like had you started off without it and then decided to do it midway through, you would have gotten a lot of pushback and a lot of flack, just because so many people are one way or the other. We dabbled in this conversation last night. That so many people are just dead set in their ways, and that's why they always say you shouldn't talk religion or politics, because so many people are so firm in their affirmations that you're not going to sway them, and trying to sway them just starts a trigger method. And most people become instantly angered, and anger leads to far worse things. And we shouldn't have to be that way. Everybody should be. I feel more people should be more accepting of other people's ways of life. And more of a you do you. If we had more of that in life, I feel like we'd be in a lot better spot. And you and I had a long conversation last night. We don't need to go into all that stuff. I appreciate that you took the time to explain some of it to me, because I enjoy learning about other people's religions. And
absolutely.
I truthfully enjoyed last night's conversations.
I did too. We stayed up till 1:30 in the morning.
We got
just talking. And
we got back
fun.
from the show, and everybody was going to bed. And we stayed up until 1:30 just shooting the breeze, and it didn't even feel that bad until all of a sudden I was like, we've only had 4 hours of sleep the last 2 nights. It was like 2 hours Thursday night and 2 hours Friday night. And I was like, man, I was crashing pretty hard last night. And I'm like,
I bet.
I could use a nap today. I'll tell you that. And, I would like to, at some point in time, when we get another time to spend some personal time together, I'd like to involve Keenan.
Cool.
Keenan is very firm in his affirmations as well, but he's also understanding, and he likes to talk about it. And Keenan and I have had some very deep conversations like you and I did last night.
Cool.
I feel like Keenan would enjoy some conversations with you as well.
Yeah, man.
It would be fun to be able to share some of that with Keenan, just because I truly had a great time last night.
Totally, I did too.
It was awesome.
Like, to me, that's part of what being friends is that you can talk about some of those things and be okay with one another. You don't need to say, hey, it's my way or nothing. You know, we can't hang together now because you're this or that or whatever. You know.
Yeah,
hey,
exactly.
And so I think that's part of what's been encouraging to me is that I haven't gotten anybody that's pushed back on me saying, hey, listen, jerk, you can't talk about that. You can't go there. It's like I'm trying to be as genuine as I possibly can and be myself, be real, and not be putting on a show.
I feel like you're not pushy about it. Like, you explain yourself well.
Okay.
And I feel like people can relate to you on some level, no matter what. Even if their faith doesn't really align with your faith.
Sure.
But at the same time, I feel like you're still attempting to do your part to help people be better by leading by example.
Sure. Yep. I want to present myself and present my faith, my beliefs in a winsome way. Yeah. But at the same time, like you said, not be pushy about it.
Yep.
And yeah, I want to try and put a positive face on being a trucker and being a wrench, you know, being a mechanic or in art, because I think too often there's negativity that's kind of associated with that. I mean, you've talked about that with polishing.
Polishing the same way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when people think about blue collar mechanics, they might think, you know, those guys are dirty, you know, meatheads, grease monkeys, and they
Talk
just
trash all
yeah. And
we do, but
they're not intelligent, or that they're.
that's not the case.
Yeah. So I'm trying my best to try and say, hey, listen, I want to see young people. It's not just guys. It's primarily males in our industry.
Yeah.
With polishing, trucking, being a mechanic, things like that. Those are primarily driven by men. But more and more women are coming into those industries.
I've been seeing more women joining the polishing forces than anything.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of the new polishers I'm meeting are women.
Cool.
And we've been seeing a lot of women truckers.
Yeah.
CEI, for example, has one of the largest women-driven fleets.
Sure.
That I even know of.
Cool.
Even so far as I think Eric Turner has a bunch of women working for him as well, driving truck. It's becoming a more common thing, and I think it's gone unrecognized for quite a while.
Sure. Yeah.
But I feel like it's one of those creeping things. Like it's really picking up and catching steam.
Yeah.
More women are getting into our industries.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Oh yeah. I do too.
I think it's amazing.
I do too.
To see them getting their hands dirty and doing the same stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, not that they haven't been,
Right.
but it's amazing to see more and more of them doing it.
Yes. I want to see people in the trades doing well financially and being good husbands and wives and being good parents to their kids, you know. And I think so much of that, if we can, like you said, lead by example and just show, hey, you know, we're people with ethics and morals, and we are not silent about these things. We're gonna try and just put a positive face on these things and say, hey, we want to be relatable, but let's show that we're the real deal, and we're not gonna put on a false mask either.
Yeah.
You know, just be real.
I think as you move forward and you get bigger, people are going to relate to that as well, because they're going to understand that you're not just doing this for the fame or the notoriety. And when people start to actually see that the industry is starting to get a better face. And when the pandemic hit, I thought this was a good turn.
Yeah.
Like, truckers were the greatest thing on the planet.
Yeah.
We were saving the world, you know?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the pandemic started pulling back a little bit, and everybody's states opened back up, and it was back to trucker trash again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can't believe how quick that switch got turned off. Yeah. And I wished it would have been not a switch at all. Mm-hmm. If anything, I wish it would have been a dial.
Sure.
But I don't feel like it needed to turn off at all.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like so many drivers deserve better than they get treated.
I agree.
When the pandemic hit and they had to start parking in parking lots and people were booting them and towing them and giving them big tickets and fines and stuff. Like, these guys were just looking for a place to eat.
Yeah.
Or looking for a place to sleep.
Yeah.
And nobody's bathrooms were open.
Right.
Nobody's anything's were open. The rest areas all closed. And I don't think these states thought it through on what shutting rest areas down does to truck drivers.
It's true. Yeah, you're right.
Because would you imagine, you don't have to imagine because you live it, but imagine not being able to stop to just do something simple like go to the bathroom.
Right, yeah.
And it's either do it illegally outside, up behind a tree, or on the other side of your truck or whatever.
Right.
Because every rest area you stop at, the bathrooms are closed, or they'd roll porta potties out there like that was any cleaner.
Right.
Like,
the
porta johns were just a cesspool, and they weren't cleaning them out. They weren't doing any of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like just
making
terrible.
things worse.
Made it worse.
Yeah.
100% it made it worse.
And it's bureaucrats making decisions like that aren't seeing the big picture
And
stuff.
And I know you saw it worse than we did here because you coming from Minnesota, you guys still have a lot of tighter restrictions there now.
We do.
We're a year and a half in.
Yeah.
And you guys still have a lot of really tight restrictions over there. We were just through there not that long ago, and I went to go stop at a rest area. They were still closed. I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
Wow. As far as I know, we're back open as far as rest areas and stuff like that. Yeah. So things have lifted.
I just came through there like 3 weeks, and there was still 4 or 5 rest areas that were no bathrooms.
Oh man,
What a shame. Well, I guess I'm gonna go up behind that tree over there real quick because this isn't gonna work.
No, and like you were saying, with more and more women in the industry, that's just snowballing. It's making
it's even worse.
Even worse for them.
Even worse, and I feel terrible for them because there's no privacy.
Right.
When it gets to that level.
Yeah.
You know, like
shame.
you can get it done, but it's not kosher.
No. It's not right.
So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So, what is your main area of expertise? I know you drive 5 days a week.
I do. Yep.
That's your main gig.
Yes. Yep. That's
what
kind of
is your second love? I know you said it's polishing art, wrenching.
Yeah.
Which one's your number 2? I know this is bad because it's like picking one of your favorite kids.
Oh, right. That's tough. It's like I love them all. Man, I would say, as far as my love and my passion, I would have to say probably wrenching and being a gearhead and working with my hands, whether it's working on my own truck, doing repairs, doing maintenance on some of the other trucks in our fleet. But that also ties in with doing some of these father-son projects that I'm doing with my boys right now. And like I raced for 7 years, and so that's so much a part of who I am. Like I love hot rods, street rods, rat rods, all those things, and so I'm always tinkering and playing with stuff, going to junkyards and just having fun, getting dirty. To me it's one big giant ball with different facets to it. So that's probably not a great answer for you, but I think
no, it's perfect.
If trucking is my 5 days a week, I tell my boss, if I didn't help out on Saturdays with our maintenance and with the repairs that we do, I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
So for me, Saturday is my favorite day of the week because I'm back. Yeah, I'm back to what I know of fixing trucks and fixing cars.
So
I love that.
I know we haven't touched on it yet, but your Instagram handle is Flannel Phillip.
Flannel Phillip. Yeah.
So is the Flannel Phillip because of the mechanicing and guys wearing flannels with the mechanicing, or is there some other kind of story with this?
Oh, okay. There is sort of a story that goes with it.
Usually is.
Yeah. So it was a handle that I chose, and both my son and my wife were like, "Really? You sure you want that?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's a good one. I like it," and it was available, so I'm like, "All right, we're gonna do it."
Even better.
Yeah. So the story with flannel, it goes back to when I first started working for Brian. He's my boss. He's my friend and he's my boss. He's an awesome guy to work for, and I really appreciate him a lot. Brian was getting into...
Sounds like bonus points, what it sounds like to me.
Well, I try and say it as many different places and ways as I can because it is the truth.
And
I don't want it to sound like I'm...
You've talked really highly of him every time we've talked, so
yeah, he's super cool.
I can tell it's genuine.
Yeah, okay. So Brian was getting into like fat tire biking.
Yeah.
Yeah, which that's cool. He's into mountain bikes and staying fit. He kayaks. He likes hiking and
It's a lot of work.
a bunch of things that just aren't me. But he was getting into this crowd, and he was going to competitions on weekends, and so he was riding some of these trails with a crowd that was more into like wearing tight spandex and bike helmets and fingerless gloves, and they were pretty serious. I mean, they had numbers on their bikes, and they had fat tire bikes that were worth a couple $1,000s.
Sure.
And Brian's wasn't. I mean, he still had the big tires, but he had, kind of a cheaper bike. So Brian was showing up with like chore gloves and a flannel shirt, and he's out there riding these same trails with a bunch of people in spandex and helmets.
Sure.
So that was kind of the running joke, is like, man, we are way too flannel for this kind of stuff. So that just became kind of the running tagline, is like, man, we're the flannel guys, we're just...
So did you go along with him to these events?
No, this was just kind of him telling me what he did over the weekend.
Sure.
Like, man, really? So he's out there with the spandex crowd wearing flannel.
That's too
And so
funny.
that's sort of where that came from, is just, I'm Flannel Phillip, he's Flannel Brian, and it's
That's
just
too
kind of
funny.
Yeah, so that's the backstory why I chose that
It just
handle.
stuck.
It just stuck, yeah.
And I'll tell you what, it's great branding now, because honestly, I got the opportunity to finally meet you in person last year at the No Coast Large Car Show.
Yeah. Yep.
JR from Lifetime Lug Nut Covers show.
Yeah. Great
and
show, by the way.
You come yes, it's an amazing show. He invited me every year. Last year I finally got to go.
Yeah.
And
cool guy.
you came walking up and introduced yourself and bought some product.
Yeah.
I brought some product along.
Yep.
And you were like, I'm not sure you know who I am. I'm like, no, you're Flannel Phillip. Like, I know exactly who you are. And you were like, oh my God, I can't believe it. Like,
Yeah.
Like, your branding and marketing's on point. Like,
it's just sort of organically happened on its own. I mean, you could say some things are intentional, but I'd like to think that I would be doing the same thing on Instagram or YouTube or whatever, even if nobody else was watching. I try, if I can, to put out the content that I want to watch.
Yeah.
And if it resonates with people, great.
Yeah.
But, just be yourself.
I will say that it worked, and it doesn't look like you did it on purpose, and it just kind of happened organically, and that's probably the reason why you've gotten as big as you have so quickly. Because a lot of people can relate to you.
Okay.
So like,
cool.
You are a trucker that does wrenching on the weekend, and I can't even tell you how many of my owner ops I know do their own wrenching on the weekends and doing their own stuff.
Sure.
So is that where the peace and grease comes from?
Yeah, it really kind of is too. I think that was something that goes all the way back to like the 60s or the 70s.
I know.
I heard it, and I think it was one of the times that I was live on Instagram with the Boston trucker, Mike Gaffin.
Yeah,
I don't know
Mike
if you know
Gaffin.
it. Yeah.
I know Mike Gaffin.
Yeah. So we were live one time, and he was doing something live, I think, once a week during the lockdowns that Boston had.
Yeah.
And I said it, and he's like, oh my gosh, that's so funny, that's awesome. And it just sort of stuck, and then it became the way that I was ending just about every video I was doing or things like that. It
That's
just
awesome.
became a thing. So
That's
it's like,
awesome.
it's just sort of stuck around.
It just happened.
It just happened, yeah.
That's awesome.
And so now, like, one of my sons was kind of getting into doing some graphic design, and we're designing some stickers and things like that are branded just Peace and Grease, because it's part of the Flannel Phillip thing.
Yeah.
So, it's just...
You could almost do a peace sign dripping with grease on the hand.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the kind of thing. There's a lot of different directions you can take it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's too cool.
It's fun.
Or a tube of grease with the peace logo and stretched out on it. Like, that would be cool, too.
Yep.
That stuff's cool.
It's fun because it just sort of happened, and it stuck around, and it's its own thing. But it's not original to me. I didn't invent it. I just heard somebody else use it. So.
I think was it Nocos? You had your hair slicked back and
Yeah.
you were living your part. Like your truck's more of a, would you consider it a rat rod style?
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. It's certainly not a show truck. It's a
I don't
it's
know
a
about
work
that.
truck.
I feel like you could.
I got like a rusty frame.
It's a
and I got-
Joplin show truck. I don't mean to disrespect
Cool.
to you or Joplin,
Hey, well, hey.
but it's one of those things that like IMT. They got a lot of really nice rides.
Oh yeah.
You've got that
Love those
same
guys.
kind of nostalgia with it.
I do.
Like
I love old semis, old cars. Like just to me, faded patina is beautiful.
Yeah.
I love to see a truck that shows battle scars. You can tell that it has a story to tell, and to me, that's where so much of the artist part of me comes out, is because I'm passionate about those kind of things. And if you could get a machine to tell a story, what would that story be about? And so if you can take photos, if you can take some video, put some music to it because that's fun, and you can kind of try and tell the story of that machine, where it's come from. You can see the old lettering that used to be on the doors, or you can see that it used to have some accessories that aren't there anymore. But it's not been neglected. I like to think of my truck as being still well maintained, and that's why I try and keep it polished and keep the shiny things shiny, but yet there's pieces and parts of it that definitely show its age, but still well loved. If that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So that, to me, so much of a guy's truck is showing who he is. Like that, it's a reflection on the driver, and so your truck is kind of showing who you are on the inside. I think your pickup is that way too. And you think about it, or your cab over, but it's a direct reflection on you. So you've customized it the way that you want, because that's who you are.
That's probably the best way I've ever heard that explained.
Really?
Like I try to explain, like when people are like, why did this guy do this, or why did this guy do that in that truck? Like, why didn't he do this, or why didn't he do that?
Okay.
Because it's his flavor.
Exactly.
And you saw Mitchell Bottomley.
Yeah.
Everybody's like, why has that truck got a tribal on the side? I'm like, you spend any time with Mitchell and get to know him a little bit, he's wild.
Yeah.
Like, that dude is wild. So,
yeah.
The outside of his truck, the inside of his truck, Big Daddy.
Yeah.
It just, it reflects him as a person.
It does. It
And
does.
you look at Don Wood's truck that he built, it's his personality.
Bingo.
You look at Chad Smith over at STS in Ohio, that white and blue. That white and blue is him.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
The full white interior, like, it is him 100%.
And even if somebody is getting a truck that they can't make every single decision about, it's still, you might have a company logo on it. It might not be the color that you like. It's still a reflection of you, the way that you care for your interior, how well you keep things up, or any customizations that you do. It's a reflection on who you are.
Yeah.
And so, to me, that's one of the beautiful things about the trucking industry, is that everybody's kind of making things their own.
Is that why you do the flannels? Because it looks a little more respectable?
I think so. Yeah.
A little more professional?
It does. I think old school truckers that wore a button-down shirt or pearl snaps and things like that, yeah, man, like slick back hair and belt buckles and boots and things like that. That's just who I am. I can't help myself. I'm not trying to put on a costume, but I love Jerry Reed. I love, Smoking the Bandit. It's just awesome. Like, that's where I fell in love with trucking. So, I don't know. Well done.
There you go, you're good.
That was close. That was close to the full 30.
Yeah.
That was nice. I like it. So, Jerry Reed,
Yeah.
Smoking the Bandit.
Yeah.
You literally lived that lifestyle. I mean, you were wrenching on your own stuff.
Sure.
You're everything but truck and booze.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, I'm not running moonshine, and I don't have a chase car. I don't have somebody blocking for me, but yeah. I liked that movie from when I first saw it when I was just a kid. And so to me, that was like kind of the romantic trucker thing that I fell in love with it even as a kid. And I can't say that I grew up wanting to be a trucker. I didn't know from when I was 8 years old that I knew I was going to be a trucker someday. I can't say that.
Sure.
But in being a mechanic for 15 years and then racing and then helping on the farm and learning to drive truck, I found that I was having just as much fun driving a semi on the farm as I was when I was racing on a Saturday night.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And to me, I can pay money to go race a race car and maybe win $50,
Or you can get paid to drive.
or I can get paid to drive a truck, and I'm having just as much of a thrill when I get behind the wheel.
That's awesome.
I absolutely loved driving semi.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what I did when I was still wrenching 5 days a week, working at a shop, I took on a part-time trucking job working for AmeriGas Propane.
Sure.
And I was just driving a company truck. We pulled a flatbed, and then we had pallets of propane grill tanks, and we'd strap those down. And I was just running from Owatonna, Minnesota to Anoka, Minnesota. And I would do it one night a week. It was usually Wednesday evening. Like after I'd get done at the shop, I'd punch out, run across town, jump in the semi, and I was usually home by 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So
Sure.
doing one round on a weeknight, and then I would do the same round on a Saturday. And so I was doing 2 short shifts. I was getting paid hourly.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Just absolutely loved it. So I was wrenching full-time, driving part-time. And I did that for, I want to say 2 years.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
And racing, and my kids were growing up, and a couple of my boys were wanting to get into doing projects and things like that. So it's like, I made a conscious decision. I'm going to flip around, and instead of wrenching 5 days a week and driving part-time, I'm going to drive full-time, I'm going to wrench part-time. That's what I made the decision to do.
Wow.
What that did is that freed me up so that I could help on the farm during harvest time. Because in the upper Midwest, man, when October, November hits, that's when harvest for corn
And wrenching
and
gets crazy.
The wrenching gets crazy. Like, yeah. So that freed me up to be able to help on the farm because I love farming. I love driving tractors and things
cool.
like that. Yeah. So again, it's so much of who I am. It's just kind of like this big tinfoil ball just packed on it, layer upon layer upon layer.
Just keep mushing
It's
it together.
Yeah, that's just kind of.
Did you at the Waupun Trucking Show this weekend? Did you get a chance to meet Kevin Voigt, his black and white Freightliner cab over?
I don't think I did.
No. He's a shorter guy. He wears button-ups all the time too when he trucks.
Cool.
And I've told him a number of times too. I think it's awesome that you guys dress the part.
Yeah.
You don't see that a lot anymore, and I know that there's such a demand for trucking that you definitely need to. I don't know the best way to say it. You need to hire in whoever you can get.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
some of the old guys that still wear the clothes and dress the part and act the part,
Right.
I miss that stuff.
Yes.
I really do.
I do too. Yeah.
And it's cool to see that you, as young as you are living that tradition on and
Sure.
pushing that on to other people as well.
Yeah.
I don't mean pushing it like you're pushing it. I
Sure.
mean like you're promoting
Exactly.
a better way of life.
And I want to do that in a positive way because too often I see, especially on Facebook or YouTube comments or things like that, people are using rude comments to talk about company drivers, steering wheel holders, things like that. They start making rude comments about people from other nations or what they're wearing and things like that. And I don't want to get into the negativity
That
of
comes
that.
back to the religion thing.
Exactly. And
Let
so
them live their life.
Exactly. So I don't want to pick on a certain type of driver. I just want to try and present myself and our industry in a positive way and try and encourage other people to do that by, dress professionally, wear work boots if you know you're going to be, being around big heavy trucks. You might be walking through some mud or stuff like that. You want to make sure that you're not dropping a hammer on your toe or something like that. So yeah, have a pair of work gloves and carry some simple hand tools with you and just things like that. I'm actually working on getting a YouTube video together right now of 10 things that every new truck driver should know.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah, and
That's
so
awesome.
I reached out to people on my Instagram account asking them, what are some things that you wish guys knew that maybe they don't teach in truck driving school? I mean, I didn't go to truck driving school. I learned from driving on the farm, but what are some tips or some tricks? And so much of it has to do either with safety or it has to do with courtesy. And to me, those run hand in hand, and there's a lot of crossover there.
Sure.
So if we can try and show people, hey, you can be a professional driver, you can be courteous, you can be safe, and put a good face on the American truck driver, the Canadian truck driver, the Mexican truck driver, all these different things, and Australia too.
Yeah.
I have more and more Australians that are following me too, which is pretty awesome.
That industry's growing over there and making it more visible as well.
Exactly.
Keenan and I have talked about this a number of times, that the United States truck driver market has been very well established for a long time, and we've been very vocal about it. The Hispanic south of the border area, they're starting to catch up and starting to be more vocal. Europe is starting to be more vocal. Australia is starting to be more vocal. A lot of these trucking areas, even South America, is really breaking fast. They've got all these truck rodeos now. It's all catching on really quick. And I think you're going to see a boom relatively soon, within the next 3 to 5 years, of a worldwide trucker visibility. And I feel like you're on that upswing right now, that if you stay at the forefront of it, you're going to get to go along with that ride when that wave comes through.
Cool.
Because it's coming. I hope it stays positive when it comes. I hope it's not a negative swirl.
I do too.
Worldwide. But I feel like there's enough good podcasters and YouTubers out there like yourself. There's also some crap ones.
There is.
There's also some truckers and TikTokers out there that don't do the industry any justice.
Bingo. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
They definitely help shine the bad light on it. They're doing bad stuff. We had a local driver up here that crashed the gate in '98 because he thought it'd be funny to be that guy that blew through the toll booth at 80 mile an hour.
Oof. And
he instantly got fired when he got back. Because could you imagine if you had hit a toll worker and killed him? That would have been a bad deal. And I think sometimes people don't think about that when they're doing it, because they're trying to be funny for Snapchat or trying to be funny for Instagram or TikTok or whatever. And I think people have forgotten, since our lives are so visible through social media, that people forget to think about the actual consequences of their actions, because they want that minute of fame or they want that 10 minutes of fame.
You bet.
And it's really bad. I feel bad that that's the position we're putting ourselves in now as a culture, more than just an industry. It's not just our industry that's doing it. I mean, it's across the board.
Well said.
I personally love the Jackass movies because I think they're funny. But at the end of the day, that Jackass culture has, I feel like, persuaded other industries to try and do the same thing in their industries. And I feel like it's hurting us more than it's helping us. So
I agree.
Be interesting.
So that kind of makes me think of, you've done some things in the polishing world to try and look at the long game instead of that quick 30 seconds of fame, and try and say, I want to help the industry grow. I want to put a positive light on it. And I admire that about you. And in some ways, I'd like to see the same thing happen with being a trucker and being a mechanic and being an artist and all those, being a dad. I want to try and push those things. I mean, let's be honest. That's the agenda. That's the goal. We want to be positive.
I've seen that, and that's why I said something to you yesterday that I feel like you could really do something great with this thing, and I think you could, as long as you stay true to yourself and true to your path, I think it's going to be a really great thing for you, because I've been on my own path for a long time, and I feel like we're finally making some headway. I feel like the polishing industry is coming around. It's taken 15 years of hard work between Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and now TikTok. I'm seeing the industry become better and be better.
Good.
And doing better.
You've seen some results?
Seeing some results, and it's been 15 years of hard work. I don't think you're going to have to put in 15 years. I feel like it's an easier transition for you than it was for us. But at the same time, it's going to take the help of some of your peers. Some of the other YouTubers and TikTokers that are in your agenda, that they're going to have to step up and change their ways a little bit to help get down that road. Mike Gaffen's a great one.
Yeah.
I feel like he's another guy that's been doing great for the industry, and not just now. He's been doing it for a long time.
Bingo.
I actually followed him a long time ago.
Cool.
I want to say when he started his, it was his YouTube channel, maybe.
Sure. Yep.
I don't know how long he's been doing it, but I feel like it's been quite a while.
7-8 years, maybe at least. Yeah, something like that.
And I started following him in the beginning.
Cool.
And it was cool to see that he's kind of been on the same path.
Yeah.
Like, want people to do better and be better.
Yep.
So I feel like he was one of the guys that started paving that road.
Cool.
I feel like you joined his paving crew.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
it'd be interesting to see where you guys take this, because I think it's there. I think it's possible. And I think if you guys start building a group of people around you that can all have the same end game goal, I think a lot of you guys can come up together.
Right on.
Same as we did in the polishing industry.
Yeah.
You're going to have your tough times.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be confrontation, and there's always going to be...
You've come out of it with some bruises.
Hate and flack. Yep, 100%. I'm always told I need to take it in the chin, and I feel like I've taken it in the chin more than just about anybody. I do give the woe is me sometimes, only because it's like your shoulders can only carry so much before it's like, catch me some slack once in a while. Sure. You know?
Yeah.
And I have done some of it to myself.
Okay.
I was aligned with some people that kept a bug in my ear that, needed to do stuff to keep the pot stirring. And you hear it often enough and you just do it.
Yeah.
And now that I'm 39 and having a better understanding on life, I feel like I don't need to keep stirring the pot.
Sure.
Let that pot boil over and spill out on its own. I don't need to keep cooking that slurry. Yeah. And
good for you. It's wisdom that you've gained over the years.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And I always joke around, like my grandpa always told me, with age comes wisdom. Yeah. And I never understood that. I thought I was a smart kid. Now that I'm older, I'm like, I really wasn't that smart. I was kind of dumb. But we had to learn the hard way. Yeah. Right? It's just how it was. And sadly, I learned the real hard way.
And having teenage sons now, they're mirrors of me. Yep. And I can see like, oh man, like I used to think that way. I used to do that. I used to say that, and now it's my turn to...
Making a lot of the same mistakes, and now you get to be your father and go, if you'd have just listened to me to begin with, you wouldn't have had that problem.
Many times a week, I find myself going, oh man, I sound just like my dad.
I sound just like my dad. My dad always told me too, he's like, someday you will have kids and you will get to have this same conversation. Yep. And I was like, nah, my kids would never do what I I'll tell them. He's like, I told you didn't listen. It's just too funny.
Okay. So I wanted to ask your advice on when it comes to social media. I have made a couple of conscious decisions, and I was talking to Eric from 10-4 magazine yesterday a little bit about this. I've made a conscious decision to get off of Facebook. I've made a conscious decision to not be on TikTok, and I've made a conscious decision that on my YouTube channel, I don't read my comments and I don't respond to comments. And I always try to make a note in the video somewhere to say, if you'd like to interact with me, you can find me at Instagram. And here's my handle. And I don't know if that's hurt me or not, but I try and talk about why, but I maybe haven't made it clear enough yet. But when it comes to YouTube comments, I'm trying my best to avoid the negativity, not only from myself, but my sons help me with the editing of all my videos. Sure. And so if I can try and protect them from getting torn down from negative comments and things like that, I've told my kids, don't read the comments that are below the video. And so that way, if people want to interact with me, they can find a way to do that. And I've made a conscious decision on my Instagram page to try and make it family friendly enough that my own kids could not only look at all the things on my page, but they could read through the comments. And I try to keep it cleaned up and keep the garden weeded enough to keep the F-bombs off there and keep the negative stuff off there. So I don't know if that's hurt my growth, but
I will say it has,
Okay.
for sure.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
You are staying true to yourself. So if that's the way you choose to do business, no problem.
Sure.
I will tell you from a marketing standpoint and from a business standpoint, it is the hardest, most difficult thing you can ever do, and it's definitely hurting your impact on the industry. You'll never get as much growth without response.
Okay. Yeah.
YouTube algorithm especially
Okay.
still comes down to interaction with your comments. If you are not physically interacting with your comments,
Okay.
you're never going to grow. Now, once you get bigger, it's less of a percentage.
Okay.
So, like, as you become 150,000 followers or more,
Yeah.
you don't have to engage in every comment.
Sure.
But when you're small, engaging in all the comments grows you a stronger following,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
With that said, as a father, I struggle with a lot of the same things you just said because I curse far more than I should, and I do it in front of my children. I'm not afraid to curse in front of my children. And I shouldn't say that because I doubt you're afraid to curse in front of your children. You just don't.
Right. Yeah.
It's your way of life.
Sure. Yeah. I've tried to train myself and then train my children that we don't use foul language.
I try to.
That's not to put that on you or anybody else. It's just our family rule.
I am perfectly fine with it.
Yeah.
I grew up in a house where I wasn't allowed to curse. I didn't ever hear my parents curse until after I graduated high school. It wasn't a regular thing.
Sure.
And my lifestyle led to who I am.
Sure.
And I listen to a lot of Gary Vee. And I feel like Gary Vee is very inspirational, but he is one of the most foul people you will ever listen to. He curses a lot, and it's not that he's trying to do it to be somebody special. It's just who he is as a person.
He's being genuine.
So I feel like for you to try and protect your children from negativity, I don't feel like you can ever fully accomplish that. And I understand trying to protect your children because I have 2 daughters of my own. And I want to protect them from everything.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my daughters know that me cursing isn't a reflection on them. They can make that choice when they're old enough and they can make that conscious decision. Because I can't protect them from everybody else in the world.
No, exactly.
I'm not going to be at their side all the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're going to come across it at some point in time.
You bet, yep.
I raised my girls not to be like their father. But at the same time, if they make that conscious decision down the road, I want them to be able to do that. At the same time, I allow my daughters to have TikTok in a censored manner. Sure. I mean, we check to see who they're following, who they're watching, what videos they're liking, that kind of stuff.
You bet.
Their iPads are open books for us.
Good. That's wise.
We're allowed to check in on them at any given time without question. My oldest is 11, my youngest is 7. And I check their iPads fairly frequently to see who they're following, what they're watching, that kind of stuff. Yeah. But at the same time, I feel like I want them to have the freedom to be able to explore the world and see some of the other... Everything in life for me is art. Yeah. So whether it's dance or for me polishing, for you pinstriping, building buildings, stuff like that. You bet. It's all art to me. Yeah, I agree. Your work is your art. And I want my daughters to be exposed to as much of that as possible. Now with that comes the downside of they're going to stumble across people that you don't want them to be role models of. Sure. Yep. So...
Well, there's maybe things that they're not ready for yet.
Correct.
You know, so.
Correct. Yeah. And for what it's worth, I feel like my daughters are very good in that department. Cool. Very few times have I ever had to correct anything. Yeah. My daughters are, I'm truly blessed. I got 2 of the best daughters a guy could ask for. Awesome. They are well behaved, well maintained. They are. I got to see that last couple days. At dinner, they're very respectful. Yeah. They're not animals.
Yeah.
They're not savages.
Not one bit.
And I'd like to think it's a girl's thing that they're better behaved, but at the same
Pretty
time, I'd like to believe that my wife and I spent a lot of time trying to make sure we raised them properly,
You bet.
so that they could be who they are.
Yeah.
So with that said, I don't think you should shelter your kids from the negativity comments.
Okay.
Me personally, on my YouTube channel and my YouTube channel, I treat a little differently.
Okay.
My YouTube, my negativity comments, I just simply respond to, I understand this video wasn't for you.
Mm.
I thank you for watching anyways.
Okay. Yeah.
And I leave it at that.
That sounds really smart.
My Instagram, on the other hand, negativity comments, I just delete them.
Mm.
It's super simple.
Yeah.
Swipe.
Yep.
Delete. Gone.
Yep.
And if the person's a habitual, like multiple times in a row, I see the same name commenting hateful stuff or negativity stuff, I'll message them and be like, I don't know what I did wrong to you, but this isn't the forum for it.
Yeah. Yep.
And if they continue, I just block them.
Yeah.
It's super simple.
Yeah. That's why the block option is there.
Correct.
It's nice to have.
So that you can still have your personal space without having to worry about somebody being that way.
You bet.
Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you were a great father. And I feel like your kids could likely handle that situation by seeing some of it, and you could filter some of it for a while and see how they react to it.
Sure.
And how they handle the situation. Much like this weekend, you saw my kids come to the shows.
Yeah.
And it makes me nervous.
Sure.
Because I'm not liked by everybody.
Yeah.
So it makes me nervous that if somebody ever is going to come up to the booth and trash on me or bash on me or start yelling at me, I don't want to expose my kids to that.
Okay.
But at the same time,
they're going to be watching, how does Dad handle this?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's going to be at some point in time that they're going to have to see me handle something like that, and how I handle it is going to be under the microscope with them.
Yeah.
And they're likely going to handle the situations themselves the same way.
Cool.
And this is just a personal deal for me. I don't always feel like avoidance is the only answer.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like for us, trying to deal with this situation, only because I've had some guys that commented negative stuff on my YouTube channel that turned around and moved forward as better people and not left nasty comments ever again. And we're like, you handled that situation really well. Like, I came in here and talked trash because somebody told me to, or I was talking trash because I saw in a polishers group that you're a dick. And they're like, I didn't even really know who you were. And the way you handled the situation changed my mind to maybe I'll think this through a little bit. Since I don't have a personal beef with him, maybe he really isn't a bad person. Maybe it's just that person didn't see eye to eye with him.
Wow.
Why should I have to see eye to eye at the same level?
That's pretty cool.
Because I've had some people turn it around.
Yeah.
And some people not hate me because they open their eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
I think you could do the same thing and turn some of your haters around.
Yeah, cool.
I don't know if you have any yet.
I don't think that I do. Sometimes it's genuinely, it's okay criticism, and I try not to just delete anything that I maybe disagree with. You know, it's not like I'm keeping it that sanitized, but I've made those decisions to get off of Facebook. It was getting so political, and
Facebook's terrible.
Like, man, I was getting so much of my content stolen, and then it would start a thread that spiraled downhill really fast, and people trying to outdo one another, and it ended up turning into a giant mess. And I felt like I had to babysit Facebook so much. It just wasn't fun anymore.
All the social media you have to babysit.
I just don't want one more thing.
And so I will tell you, like, that is one of the biggest struggles as you get bigger. It isn't all fun and candy and rosebuds. Like, I'd like to tell you as you get bigger it gets easier. It doesn't. Because honestly, I could use a social media manager, somebody that could handle it all. It's struggle because there's not many people out there that understand the industry like we do and be able to field a lot of the questions we field.
Sure.
But at the same time, my social media is a second job and a third job most days.
Wow.
Like, I respond to every one of my YouTube comments.
Yeah.
I may not get back to it that week or that day or that month,
Okay.
but I always go back and respond to every YouTube comment.
Wow.
Instagram, I hate that it only shows you 100 things,
Yeah.
because sometimes I miss comments that people tag me in.
Sure.
I try to respond to all of that,
Okay.
but it doesn't always work that way.
Good.
Facebook, if you leave a comment, I either like it, or if it's a hate, I don't like it at all.
Yeah, just leave it alone.
Yep. But I always try to comment back to most people there as well.
Yep.
So, like, if you're being kind or thanking me for doing YouTube videos or whatever, I try to comment back to all of that stuff as well.
Cool.
To the best of my extent. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes there's stuff that falls through the cracks and I miss stuff.
Oh,
But
sure.
at the same time, I try my hardest.
You're human.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is, like, polishing's my first job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Working in my office is my second job. And doing social media is my third job.
Yeah.
So it's like I have a lot on my plate on a regular basis. So I don't get to give the third child as much attention as it deserves.
Yeah.
Because my wife and kids are a lot of times the fourth child.
Sure.
So like, they don't get as much as they deserve either. So it's a constant struggle.
Yeah.
But I feel like, however you see fit to move forward, stick with it, and do what you find is best for you and your family. I do know plenty of other videographers that you've never seen a picture of their wife or kids. And me, I post up pictures of my wife and kids all the time, because a lot of people forget I have a family and that I need a home life.
Yeah.
Like, I said this in Woody's podcast as well, that if you let the polishing community in, it will consume you. Between truck drivers and polishers, I mean, no disrespect, but if I don't say no, they won't.
Yeah.
They would work us 7 days a week, 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
I field phone calls at 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock in the morning on a regular basis.
Oh, man.
Like, seriously, what time zone are you in sometimes?
Yeah.
Like, I'll wake up at 2:30 in the morning and answer the phone. I'm like, thinking it's an emergency, like it may be my parents, something.
Yeah.
And I answer it, and it's like, oh, hey, dude, I didn't realize you were still up. I was just going to leave a message. Like, why did you call at 7?
Oh,
Like,
man.
All right,
Yeah.
well, I'm up now. What do you need? Well, I just had a quick question. It's like, really?
So he was
2:30 in the morning?
Yeah, driving truck somewhere in the middle of nowhere, 3 a.m., and he's thinking about it. So he's thinking,
Yeah.
I'll just call Evan and leave a message.
I'm like, just shoot me a text.
Yeah,
Like, I
man.
call you back in the morning. It wasn't a big deal, but yeah, that stuff gets a little rough.
Yeah.
You're good.
Cool.
So it's a constant struggle between the two.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
home and work, they overflow each other a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can only imagine.
Yeah, as you get bigger, it just gets worse. But the guys that don't show their wives and kids, I respect that too, because it's nobody's business.
Sure.
However you see fit to rule your life, it's your life.
Sure.
And the guys that don't show their wives and kids, I envy that, because there was times where when the documentary came out, the one that Chris Feify did from Big Rig Videos, I read all the comments on his video. And I haven't done it in a while, but I read all the comments when it first came out. And one of the comments was, I'd polish his wife.
Oof.
I'm like, wow.
Yikes.
I mean, it made me proud. Like, for what it's worth.
I think, right?
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I think. I don't know.
Yeah. See, that's the kind of thing that, I don't know.
I feel like no matter what you do in life, your kids are going to come across those struggles.
Yeah.
And I feel like going through them with you is a lot better than letting them have to go through that by themselves.
Sure.
And like I said, if you don't want to, don't.
Yeah.
Stick to your guns. But at the end of the day, like, if my daughters go back someday and read those comments, they'd be like, wow, really, our mom? Awesome. You know, like,
she was a dish.
she still is. I've done well. You know?
Well done.
I've done well for myself. I married up. I'm well aware I married up. I got lucky for sure.
Awesome.
But it's one of those things.
Totally.
I want my kids to go through some of the same struggles I did. My dad and my grandpa put me through a lot of the same struggles they went through. I had to buy my first car. I didn't get it given to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like all that stuff falls in the same category. Life has changed so much from when we were kids. You're not that much older than me, so I'm going to put us in the same small era, right?
Yep.
So we didn't have iPads and living through this social media era. Like when Facebook first came out, I mean, we heard about it only because we had somebody in college that had joined, because it was only a college thing.
Right.
We were like, what is this social media platform that everybody's hanging out on? And you can't really talk without being in college.
Right.
It's only for college students. What kind of crap is that?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And MySpace, you had to be a computer programmer to figure out how to work everything.
Right. Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just interesting how life has changed. That for us buying our first car is the same with somebody now dealing with a cyberbully.
Wow.
It's a lot of those same struggles.
Sure.
Like us having to work at 14 is the same as them having to deal with somebody at school.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to. Back when we were in school, it was a fist fight.
Yeah.
Nobody fist fights anymore.
Right. That's true.
Like, how many fist fights have you seen anymore?
They trash each other on social media.
That's what I mean.
And,
First place they go is social media and just bash each other.
Yeah.
It was like, dude, I got punched in the face way more times than I care to admit. Like, I was a scrapper when I was younger because everybody was always picking on me because I was a tall, skinny kid.
Right. Yeah.
Like, you had to fight. But now nobody does that anymore. Everybody goes to social media and just trashes each other, and these kids are just in a worse spot.
Yeah.
So I try to compare some of the things I went through as a kid to some of the things my girls go through.
Sure.
And it's a struggle for me because I don't understand girls. So I'm gonna have to lean on my wife a lot more as we get older, because I got 2 girls. I didn't get any boys. I wanted one in the worst way, but it didn't happen. But it's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. Well, last night you and I were talking, and we both listened to the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah.
I think one thing that is stuck with me that Joe says is, hey, just even if you can't relate to someone else's life experiences, just remember that the worst thing that's happened to that person is the worst thing that's ever happened to that person, even if it's not the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
Yeah.
So try and get some perspective and be understanding.
That was a really emotional one for me to listen to, and that episode helped me out a lot. Because I went through a rough time, and I always felt like my stuff was bad, but I never felt like it was that bad, because I was like everybody else. When I listened to some of their bad stuff, I'm like, well, dude, mine's nothing compared to these people.
Sure.
But it was still my own demons I was battling.
Yeah.
And it was like I never put any weight in my own demons, because I was like, I have 2 healthy kids, I have a happy, healthy wife, I have a great home, I have a great business. Like, I should be happier. And I came to the sad realization that I understand why so many of these celebrities kill themselves. Because you start comparing yourself to everybody else, and you're like my life shouldn't be that bad. Like, my life is great. I have a lot of great things. Yeah. But even though you have a lot of great things, that doesn't mean you're happy.
Right.
And your bad moments should never be compared to somebody else's bad moments, because they're still your bad moments.
Yeah.
And listening to that was one that really weighed a lot on me, because I was going through that.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand that just because it wasn't as bad as somebody losing a child at birth, or somebody losing a mother to cancer young, or losing a close family member, or having your house repossessed, or whatever. My stuff wasn't that bad.
Right.
But at the same time, it was bad to me because it was my own mental health.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. How easy is it for us as guys sometimes to just look at someone else's problems in their life and say, oh, you just got to get your stuff together, man. Like, come on, just, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. We're programmed that way, especially as independent Americans, I'm just...
You're the breadwinner.
Yeah.
You gotta keep it together.
It's like, it's so easy to look down on other people and think, I wouldn't struggle with that. Why is this guy having that problem?
Yeah.
We need to be more sympathetic.
We do. And I think that's one thing that is, I don't want to say making a charge, but I feel like it went too far the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Like the younger generation has become too sympathetic.
Yeah.
And now they're not calloused the way we are.
Right.
We took a lot of stuff in the chin and took a lot of hard punches.
Yes.
And now it's gone the other way. There's too much sympathy.
Right, yeah.
And it needs to find that middle somehow. And it's going to be a struggle because our generation has very little sympathy for the stupid things that happen.
Yeah.
And this next generation, they have way too much sympathy for the things that go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can get the next generation behind them to find something in the middle and realize that this next generation isn't awesome.
Yeah. Yep.
I feel like we could maybe do something good with my kids' generation.
Well, and that kind of comes back full circle again to what we started out talking about when, as trying to put a positive light on our industry, is that we want more kids that are graduating high school to get into the trades and be willing to get dirty and to work hard and things like that. They haven't faced the adversities that maybe you and I faced when we were, you were working at 14 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, I started working for my dad. My dad's a contractor, and I would help him all summer long, carrying tools. And I was in customers' homes, so he was teaching me life skills about, hey, this is how you deal with a customer, and this is how, we have to make sure that we're watching our family budget, and this is, hey, the van broke down, the van needs tires, or things like that. And he was showing me by example, like, this is how a man takes care of his family. This is how we work with our hands, and we use the skills that God's given us to glorify Him and to put food on the table. And if we can teach the next generation, you gotta, I'm always talking to my teenage sons about this kind of stuff. Like, I'll just call them up because I'm thinking about, hey, Luke, my 16-year-old, tell me 2 things today that you did that were difficult.
That's
I'll
awesome.
have to think for a second. Well, I said, it doesn't have to be difficult for me. It doesn't have to be difficult for anybody else, but something that you found that was tough to do. What,
It's awesome.
Yeah, or just, it can be the smallest tiny thing, but I'm trying to teach them discipline, self-discipline.
Yeah.
And things like that. So if we can try and do that in a positive way to the kids coming up, and teaching them, be willing to get dirty, be willing to sweat, be willing to, be smart with your finances.
That's awesome.
And stop being so concerned about your feelings and grit your teeth a little bit.
Make blue collar great again. If you could sit back and look at it for a second at how much more easily accessible everything is now compared to when we were kids.
Sure.
Like, you can go on Amazon and order anything and have it delivered tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, now with COVID, it's not as easy as tomorrow. Even with Amazon Prime, it's still months.
But still,
like,
if you can imagine it, you can probably have it in your hands in 2 days.
Yeah. And you can go right online and order. You don't even have to leave the comfort of your home.
Yeah.
If you wanted tires, you had to go find a tire shop. If you wanted groceries, you went to a grocery store.
Yeah.
Even then, even in like rural Wisconsin here, Minnesota where you're at,
Sure.
back in the day, you used to have to drive 30 minutes or an hour to go to a big city to go get groceries.
Yeah.
Or your little town had a small grocery store and it didn't have all the nice stuff. So you didn't have steaks and stuff like that. If you wanted a steak, you had to drive to a bigger city to go get it.
Yep.
Now,
you had to know your butcher.
you had to know your butcher.
Yeah.
Now, you could literally call any place and likely have it delivered to your city.
Yeah.
Grubhub or there wasn't Uber.
Yeah.
You had to take a taxi. That's not even a thing anymore.
Yeah. You weren't depending on your phone to give you directions everywhere. You had to know how to read a map.
Right.
Things like that.
All that stuff is gone.
Those are life skills.
Yeah. So we've officially, I don't want to say dumbed down society, but we've watered it down enough that we've simplified our lives to the point of kids don't have a lot of the same struggles we had anymore, and they never will, because short of a large EMP hitting the world and knocking out the power grid or knocking out the cellular grid.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not going away anytime soon.
True.
So it's just going to get easier for them to go further and further and further than we ever did.
Yeah.
Are they inventing new things? No. But they're fine-tuning what's there and making it easier. School has become obsolete.
Yeah.
As sad as it is, other than the social interaction and trying to learn history, which a lot of states aren't even teaching that anymore.
Oh, yeah, that too.
School has, to me, become obsolete. And I would like to see the trades make a comeback.
Yeah.
I've tried to train a lot of young kids how to polish and how to work and be functioning members of society.
Yeah.
And I try to hire a lot of high school kids because I need younger people to do our work and work alongside of me. Because I'm 39 and I feel like I'm 100.
Yeah.
And this industry
It's a rough business.
is rough.
Oh, man.
And you need young guys that can work hard and try to do what I did for a few years.
We need plumbers. We need electricians. We need mechanics.
They're all dying arts.
Yeah.
We talk to all of our local guys. Our electrician, he wants to retire, but he can't because he can't find anybody to replace him. He's going to just die being an electrician. And I hate that for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It's... my boss, Brian, calls it the sissification of our society.
The sissification. I like it. That's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, I don't think bullying is great. But I think some of that built us to be harder to deal with situations.
It's adversity. And without adversity, you get lazy, you get weak.
Yeah.
Without hardships.
Yeah.
So there has to be hardships. We can't nerf the edges on all of society in every way. Can't be done.
I don't feel like it needs to be the extent some of these kids are taking it now. But I feel like some of the things that happened to me in my childhood are the reason why I'm a better person.
Yeah.
And sometimes it took somebody knocking me in the face to teach me that.
You bet.
But could I have done without it? Sure. 100%.
Yeah.
But would I probably be a different person right now? Probably.
It's part of your life story. I mean, we were talking about tattoos earlier, things like that. It's your life story in images on you.
Yep.
And it's the life story of a truck. When I look at how beat up the paint or the metal is on a truck, it's the story that machine can tell.
Yep.
And so, I don't know, it's cool.
That's too cool.
Make blue collar great again. I love it.
There's a t-shirt company that's
Troll
clothing company.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
I love that slogan.
I do too.
That's one of the greatest stuff. I try to support them too because their support blue collar stuff it's awesome.
Absolutely.
It's great to see that the trades are getting some recognition.
Yeah.
And hopefully it keeps coming back. Because honestly, the polishing industry is blue collar, 100%.
Oh yeah.
Truck driving,
absolutely.
blue collar, 100%.
Yeah.
Wrenching,
welding,
100%. Welding,
just all that stuff, man. It's super cool.
Get your hands dirty
and I want kids to see that as cool. I want that to be an attractive thing that people are looking up to instead of looking down.
Yeah.
You know. So
I can agree with that. So your third love?
Third love is art.
Your art.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. We're getting closer.
I have a mom that she's a professional artist and she was constantly teaching me art without it feeling like she was teaching me.
Sure.
And
I feel like most artists do it that way.
Yeah. I grew up either being in a small Christian school or being homeschooled by her. And she was constantly giving me kind, motherly advice, but in my art or in my drawings and things like that. And for the longest time, anything that I was drawing or painting was just for me, and I didn't show it to anybody else.
Sure.
Because why would I? And I was almost a little bit shy or embarrassed about it. But I started drawing semis about the time I was helping on the farm, so 10 years ago, something like that. And I did one for my brother-in-law, and I was hesitant to even give it to him, but I gave it to him just because it's his truck, and I did it from a photo, and he loved it. And then that turned into 2, that turned into 4 other people saying, hey, can you draw my truck? And it was just pencil, and I would maybe take a couple weeks or a month to do somebody's truck, and it was really fun. I was able to relax, and it was kind of one of my favorite things to do in the evenings. That wasn't watching TV, because if I try and sit down and watch TV, I just fall asleep.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
so it's something that I could do at the kitchen table. I'm around my family, and I can pick it up and jump right back into it again, and I can draw for half an hour, and then put it back down when it's time for bed or something like that. So it was really easy for me to just draw.
I have a deep respect for you, because Rowan is the same way.
Rowan's amazing.
It blows my mind that he can start drawing something, set it down, and come back next weekend and finish it.
Yeah.
Like, for me, if I sat down and had to work on something, I'd have to finish it, because I would lose that mental vision
Sure.
of what I want.
Sure.
Hearing you say that, first thing I thought of was Rowan. I'm like, you guys are on the same level. Like, it's an artist brain. It's something you were born with.
Sure.
And no matter what your mom tried to teach you, you were born with that.
Well, I think, DNA is certainly part of it. And she was really kind in helping me look at what I was doing, and she would ask kind questions like, well, think about when you're going to frame a photo, even though she never really, as far as I know, she didn't have any photography training, but it was part of when she went through art school. That they had to do some photography, they had to do some sculpting, they had to do lots of different things. And so both my mom and my dad were constantly encouraging my brother and I to try new things.
Yeah.
And even if you think you stink at it, just try it and learn it, and don't be scared.
Yeah.
Because so many people say, I could never do that. It's like, did you try? A lot of times people didn't even try.
Yeah.
And be willing to take risks, and be willing to suck at something for a while, and push through and try and improve it. So my mom, in a very gentle way, she would say, hey, think about when you're drawing something, where's your horizon going to be? Or instead of taking a photo of something straight on, maybe get it a little bit different angle and then drop down a little bit. And your photography is amazing, man. Like, did you get training to do your photos?
I didn't.
Okay.
I
awesome.
developed my own style.
Yeah.
I do have to give Chris Fifey and Dan Linz both a ton of flowers. I owe them. I owe those two so much in the photography side. When I started stepping into the photography, and it was a good creative outlet for me outside of polishing. Like, I needed something that released some endorphins in my brain that was outside of polishing, because I don't want this to sound cocky or arrogant or whatever, but in polishing we had won everything possible to win.
Sure.
And it wasn't that I fell out of love with polishing, because I absolutely, truly love polishing. No matter, I get people all the time that are like, there's no way you love polishing. I seriously love polishing.
Yeah.
I can spend days in the office, and I come out and I want to hang out with the boys in the shop and polish. Like, I want to grab a grinder.
It shows. I mean, your passion for it comes through.
When I started photography, I started just taking pictures of trucks because I wanted better marketing material.
Yeah.
And then I bought my first camera because I felt like the cell phone wasn't the route I wanted. I felt like I wasn't getting the quality pictures I wanted.
Right.
But I was terrible with a hand camera. And I still feel like I'm not as good as I want to be. And I thank goodness for Chris and Dan. Chris was the first guy that helped me out.
Awesome.
Even Big E back in the day gave me some pointers.
Yeah.
But he was always super busy at the shows.
Yeah.
I didn't want to bother people either.
Sure.
But Chris was the first guy that took some hardcore time to explain some things to me. Even Steve Summers, Summershine.
Yeah.
He's a very talented photographer.
Awesome.
He did a lot of wedding photography and stuff. He took a lot of time to explain aperture and focal length and stuff like that to me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I started talking to Dan. I've always been friends with Dan, but we didn't really get close. I shouldn't even say this because Dan might call me crazy, but I feel like we're far closer in the last few years than we were previous years. And I would say probably even he invited me out for Big E's memorial when Big E passed away.
Yeah.
And I stayed late that night. Everybody just kind of hung out at the house for the memorial, and as people started to filter out, it was a vacation for me. It was a memorial vacation.
Wow.
So I didn't have anywhere to go other than the hotel room.
Yeah.
So instead of leaving early like some other people did, I stayed until the very end. They almost had to kick me out to get me out of there. And I felt like I had some long conversations with Dan and his wife, Shannon. And I finally I felt like a personal connection with them, not just transactional.
Yeah.
Because we do advertise in 10-4 magazine.
Yeah.
And Dan's always been nice to us. I'm sure he would have still been nice to me even if I had not done an ad in their magazine. Because he has always been really super nice to me. You just never know. Sometimes people are nice to you because you're paying them.
Right.
And I never got that feel from Dan. Dan was always super polite, and him and his wife have always brought me in like family.
Awesome.
But I felt like after the memorial, there was a lot more personal connection.
Yeah, you bet.
And him and I just started chit-chatting about photography that night.
Cool.
And I brought it up that I was looking at upgrading my camera.
Okay.
And he's like, honestly, you're doing great. He's like, you're taking great pictures. I said, well, honestly, if you wouldn't mind, I wouldn't mind sending you some pictures sometimes and just critiquing me.
Yeah.
I understand I will never be butthurt about what you say. I won't take it personal.
Yeah.
I am not a professional photographer by any stretch of the term.
Sure.
So
if he could help you with your lighting or talking about your composition or things like that. Yeah. Well,
composition is more important to me than lighting. I use Lightroom to edit most of my pictures. I don't edit the girls in my calendars. I don't edit the shine on the metal.
Okay.
I will edit the lighting in the background to try and bring up more of like the leaves or the parking lot or the water, that kind of stuff.
Sure.
But I don't edit the important stuff for me.
Cool.
So I wanted to know if I could start sending him pictures to see if he could kind of critique me and tell me like, if you'd have turned the truck just a little more and done this or done that. And then he and Eric Hill happened to be here shooting a calendar truck just north of here. And he called me up and was like, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? I'm like, honestly, I'm shooting a photo for Babes and Big Rigs. Okay. And he's like, oh, well, I don't want to bother you. He's like, I'm like, why, what's up? He's like, well, I'm in the area and I'm going to be doing a photo shoot of our own. And I'm like, well, if Dan's going, it's usually covered. I'm like, all right, it's got to be somebody local. You know, hopefully it's one of my guys. Fingers crossed. But I'm like, why don't you come hang out with me tomorrow? He's like, cool. Are you okay with it? I'm like, 100%. He's like,
awesome.
When I shoot with models, like, it's not a big thing for me.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just my calendar. I don't hold a lot of weight to my calendar. So,
were you a little intimidated by having him along?
I was.
That would be like me polishing in front of you. I'd be like, oh crap! I don't know if I want you to see this.
It was because like the way I do things is very unique, and it's cool. Not like any other person's style I know. I shoot a lot of low angle. Yeah. And I do it because I like the women to look taller. Sure. Yeah. I like to stretch their body out a little bit so that it matches the tallness of the truck. Sure. Yeah. And even when I shoot just trucks, I like shooting low angle because I feel like it makes the truck look bigger. Yeah. Yep. And that to me is my important part. Yeah. So shooting with Dan and having him see my style was hard. Cool. Yeah. Because I know he's a professional. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not. Right. Exactly. You're good. And shooting with him that day, he was like, you don't have a circular polarizer? I'm like, Dan, I'm not a professional. I don't even know what that is, man. He's like, let me go grab mine. And he went to his bag and he grabbed it and he brought it over to me. He's like, here, screw this on. Cool. And he's like, see the clouds coming in the background? He's like, turn those until you see the clouds pop out. Wow. And he's like, turn it a little more and you'll see the reflection on the fender go away. Ah, cool. So like, you don't see all that stuff. I'm like, that's awesome. Neat. Yeah. So I went online and bought a really nice circular polarizer. That's cool. And I'm like, I wanted to be able to start looking at my photos and kind of doing that. Yeah. And he's like, you know what? If you shoot, you can still shoot your angle, but shoot it and move just like this and line up your shot a little better.
Okay.
And you don't have to crop it and edit it later. I'm like, honestly, I shoot a lot of wide.
Okay.
And then I crop a lot of it down so I can get the perfect angle I want when I look at it on my big computer.
Yep.
And he's like, you don't need to do that. He's like, you're a good photographer. You can compose it how you want it.
That's awesome.
So
he was mentoring you.
He was.
That's awesome.
I like I said, I got to give Dan a ton of flowers for this because Dan has really fine-tuned me to, I feel like, becoming a better photographer, and I'm enjoying it even more now than I was then because now I'm getting better shots.
Yeah.
And I'm getting the shots I wanted to begin with.
That's so cool.
My favorite shot now is literally the one I took the other day with Joel Dawes' truck.
Cool.
It's a white and green truck, and it was a dark green over full tree line.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of photographers preach having contrast.
Contrast, yep.
I shot with a model in a red dress for it, so it was like boom.
Yeah.
The lady is just poison ivy, you know, like straight red dress, green everywhere.
Sure.
And when you start looking past the lady, you're like, oh, dude, there's a truck back there. And that truck kind of fills into the background.
Yep.
We shot with, I'm trying to think of a different truck the other week. It was complete contrast of color, and Dan's like, see, now that's what I'm talking about. You can do contrast sometimes and make the truck pop out besides the background with it.
Sure.
I'm like, that's all stuff I would have never thought of by myself.
Yeah.
And I had talked cameras forever with Chris because he's a Sony guy.
Oh,
and I had always had a Canon.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't really want to have to learn a new operating system.
Sure.
But at Big E's first memorial in Joplin at Four States, Chris was just on his time. He was so chill at that show, and Chris is usually super busy at shows.
Sure. Oh yeah.
So
understandably so.
And since him and Big E were so close, that memorial was probably the most relaxed I've ever seen Chris.
Cool.
And I'm sure he had a lot on his plate that day.
Yeah.
But it was nice to see him outside of his element. Like I've been at Chris's house.
Cool.
And I've stayed at Chris's house, and in his home environment, it was the same way. He was super relaxed and super comfortable because he was in his environment. It was controlled. Yeah. He controlled what came in and come out. And it was cool to get to sit and talk to him that day. He was having me use his camera. He's like, here, take it, zoom all the way in and look at that person standing over there. Snap a picture. I'd snap a picture and he'd look at it. He goes, all right, I'll do this. And I'll do that. And he's like, see the difference in clarity? Wow. He's like, this is what you get by upgrading your camera. And I'm like, all right, well, I thought the first picture looked good. Yeah. But when you start actually breaking it down and starting to elevate yourself, it's like eventually I maxed out the ability of my other camera. Sure. My camera did really well. And took a lot of good content. But at the same time, I was maxing out where I was at, and I wasn't getting the quality I wanted. In low light situations or stuff like that. So it all cleared up when I finally upgraded. And now it's cool that Dan's looking to upgrade. And it was cool getting to talk to him about what I knew finally. That's awesome. But those two guys helped elevate me on a completely different level.
That is awesome. So Chris was doing some mentoring with you as well. Like they were both willing to teach you things that they knew. And so if I understand what you're saying, it's like you weren't doing anything wrong. You just didn't realize the potential that you could be going better and further.
That's exactly
until
right.
they demonstrated it to you.
That's exactly right.
And there's parallels there with polishing. You're doing that same thing with so many of us that has helped a guy like me, where I didn't know I was doing this wrong until you pointed out and you said, hey, if you look at your hash marks, look, if you just rotate this fuel tank, you made a video like that, like see what your hash marks are doing, and it's nothing but the light and the way that it's hitting the tank. It's like,
it all makes sense.
It was a light bulb moment,
And I always tell everybody, like, you're not technically doing it wrong. You're still doing the actual definition of polishing,
Yeah.
you are polishing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that it's wrong or it's right.
Sure.
It's just, could it be better?
Yeah.
Could I make it more visually appealing?
You bet.
And that's where it comes in. Is everybody's like, what did I do wrong? I'm like, you didn't do anything wrong.
No. Yeah.
Somebody else send me pictures of white lines, and they're like, what did I do wrong? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
you didn't do something wrong. You just missed spots.
Yeah.
You didn't complete the job.
Right.
You're on the path to completion.
Yeah.
You just haven't completed it.
Bingo.
So it's not that you did something wrong. It's just not finished.
Yeah.
And I wish that's one thing more people would get to,
Yeah.
is because it's not wrong. It's just unfinished. And
Cool.
a lot of times when you would reach out, it was the same situation.
Yeah.
And when I went and looked at your truck at No Coast, the same thing. I'm telling you, you are a very talented individual.
Well, I owe, just like you were giving credit to other people that mentored you, I need to give a lot of credit to you and other people that have helped me along the way, because again, I either didn't know what I was doing wrong, or I didn't realize that, again, not wrong, I didn't realize that it could be better than what I was already doing.
Right.
So sometimes it's about getting a better product. Sometimes it's about changing your technique.
Yep.
Or learning a technique. Or you would show us, like, hey, this is what I do if I'm going to polish the tread of the step. Go this direction, then go that direction, and this is the buff I use, and this is the compound I use. It's like, wow, I wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Like, I was so new and so green when I first started polishing trucks on our farm. I didn't really know what metal polishing was all about. You know,
This leads back to the trades.
yeah,
There's nobody teaching this.
exactly.
There's nobody teaching how to polish.
Yeah, yeah,
There's nobody teaching how to do these niche market things, because you can't have this class in a college everywhere.
no, yeah,
You could have it here in my local college because I'm here,
yeah, yep,
or you could have it near another polisher that does a training course or whatever. You could
Sure.
have a class and have the polisher come in and be a teacher.
yeah,
But
Yep.
there's no like good way to teach it, because unless you're in the field and doing it, it's not
Yeah.
there.
Yep. The farmer that I was working for, he owned a variable speed Milwaukee, and he had truck stop buffs and mystery roos that we didn't really, I don't know where he got it from,
Yeah.
you know, and so he started doing the fuel tank on an old Ford one time, and I was like, wow, that looks awesome. I want to learn to do that too. So I was watching him, and then I think it was a video that you had made about doing rims, and I don't remember if it was steers or if it was drives, but you jacked it up and you were spinning it with your foot.
Yeah.
And the farmer that I was working for had never seen that done before. He's like, oh, you gotta polish a wheel, you gotta like pull it off the truck, you gotta dismount it, you gotta take the valve stem out,
Roll it around
send
the
it in.
ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you know, send it to a wheel polisher, they got a machine that'll do all that. That's all he had seen.
Sure.
And so when I showed him your video, he's like, huh, you think you could do that? I'm like, heck yeah, I can
Figure
do
it
that.
out.
I was like, let's just give it a shot. If I can watch Evan do it, I'm going to try it. So that kind of goes back to my mom and dad of just pushing
try it.
us to just try it. Yeah,
Yeah.
don't be scared. Like, go to the library, get a book, learn how to do it.
Yeah.
You know, Dad was always telling
That's
me
too
and my
cool.
brother, like, if your snowmobile doesn't run, I'm like, get yourself a Chilton manual and take your carburetor apart, put them back together, and then make it run.
That's funny.
Like, that's just what you do. So I wanted to learn how to polish. So you showed me how to polish because of your videos,
No.
and it was like,
And honestly, I started the videos just
Awesome.
because there wasn't a lot of content out there. And the
Yeah.
content was out there. I felt like it wasn't adequate for what I needed.
you bet.
And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to document this as I go along.
So cool.
And I'm going to put the content out there that I wish I could have found.
Yeah.
So anytime I ran into a question, I literally wrote it down for years.
Cool.
So like if I stumbled into something, I would write down a question. I still have it here in my notes on my iPhone now.
Cool.
When I stumble into something and I'm like, man, I really wish I knew how to fix this. I'll write it down so that I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I finally, like a year or two down the road, I'll stumble across it again and I find a solution for it. I go back and I'm like, all right, now I need to make a video about this because now I have the solution to my original question.
Sure. Okay.
So the questions are becoming few and far between.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting to where I feel like I'm kind of plateaued a little bit. I've hit the
You've reached a level of mastery now where it's not as challenging as it was when you first started.
and the questions aren't as the questions are bigger, but the answers and the solutions are far smaller.
Sure. Yeah.
So to keep going to get to where I'm at now, it was a rapid succession.
Yeah.
15 years, I jammed in 15 years of knowledge really quick, and I went from here to here in 15 years, just to the top of the mountain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now that I've gotten there, I realize this is Mount Everest, and the last 10,000 feet is what I have left.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the first 10,000 seems so much easier now
Yeah.
because the next ones aren't going to be easy. The air's thinner up here.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's a good analogy.
I'm going to have to muscle through it.
Huh.
And now as I learn more to get to that upper level, it's a struggle. Even so much as like Mitchell's bumper last night.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt terrible because I made a mistake at the truck show and I had to make it right. Would I have taken on fixing that bumper 2 years ago? Absolutely not. I would have been buying him a new bumper.
Wow. Okay.
I legitimately would have bought him a new bumper. I know Mitchell would not have let me buy him a bumper.
Sure. Because that's who he is.
I would have felt miserable.
Sure.
Like I felt miserable yesterday knowing that it happened on my watch. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to get back to the shop tonight. And I had in my head already on the drive back what I wanted to do. I wanted to get it done last night because I knew I wasn't going to sleep well last night had I not done it.
You'd have that in the back of your mind.
Like, all right, I need to get up in the morning. I need to get this done. No, I need to get it done tonight because as soon as it's fixed, I will feel so much better. My anxiety was just eating me alive.
Yeah. Yep.
And we got back. My plan went right out the window. It didn't work at all. So I had to readjust and reform and make an adjustment.
And I watched you. I couldn't tell that. Keenan probably knew that.
I don't even know if Keenan seen it last night. He probably thought, yeah, no problem. You dropped down to 400 and made it work.
But still, that's pretty cool that you're learning on the fly. Like, okay, this isn't working, so I'm going to do this. Yep. And that to me is that level of mastery because the experience that you have. Like you can look at it and say, okay, that's not doing what I want it to do. So I'm going to try this. And I'm going to try that.
And that's the thing is like, I know I can say this because you understand it, but I have polishers call me on a fairly regular basis, and they're like, I can't believe you charge what you charge for your class. Like, that's a lot of money. And I'm like, whoa, you got to think about it like, my shop costs $1,500 a day to operate.
Yeah.
And a lot of days when I train people, I shut my shop down. Like, I train you one-on-one.
Yeah.
And if Keenan's training as well, I'll train 2-on-2. I've done a few classes where I train multiple people at the same location.
Sure.
So I max my classes out at 6 if I'm doing it solo.
Yeah.
Because get more than 6 people, it's like herding cats. They don't stay together. They don't stay focused enough to get enough out of it to make it worth paying me.
Sure.
But I've had some polishers that are like, I can't believe you just don't do it for free. I'm like, my YouTube channel is free. 100% is free.
Oh my goodness.
Actually,
you give away so much.
we just caught some flack the other week from a polisher that was still holding a grudge that I told him I couldn't do it for free. And it just is what it is.
Yeah.
Because I understand that I can't please everybody. Yeah. But at the same time, some people are unrealistic in the fact that, like, I would shut my shop down, something that feeds my family and keeps us surviving, to help them become a better polisher. Like, I literally had to learn everything myself.
Yeah.
So my cost is only $500 a day.
Yeah.
And I'm literally giving you, I'm now 21 years in, I'm giving you 21 years of knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
And in my earlier years of training, it wasn't as great because I wasn't as good of a trainer. But now I feel like I have a very structured course on how we handle things.
You bet.
And I feel like polishers are learning a lot more going through the class now than they were then.
Sure.
And it's just, we've made it a lot different.
Yeah. Now, we were talking last night, you really don't hold anything back as a trade secret or something that to you, like, I'm not going to show anybody this because this is my thing. Like, you don't keep that.
You saw one secret last night, and that's only because it's not my secret to give out.
Sure. Yeah.
I met a new polisher. I want to say maybe a year ago now. I started talking to him heavier about 6 months ago.
Okay.
Nico up in Canada.
Uh-huh.
Steve had turned me on to him. That he only polished by hand, and that's always intrigued me. And I've reached out to a lot of what I consider metal artists.
Yeah.
Guys that polish sculptures and stuff like that. And Keenan and I have actually reached out to a couple guys because we wanted to see how to take what we do and get to their level. Because stuff that goes to museums is next level stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've reached out to a lot of these polishers, and a lot of those guys are doing the same thing now that we got when we were first starting in the truck world, is get bent.
Okay.
That is a fairly common answer.
Yeah, they close the gates on you.
Because
conversation
guys are afraid that we're going to get into their market, or they're going to lose work to us at some point in time. I'm like, listen, I don't want to be polishing museum quality stuff.
Yeah.
I want to know how to do it so that I can do it on a semi at some point in time.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when somebody gives me a blank check, I want to be like, listen, I can do that.
Yeah. Yep.
And we're meeting a lot of resistance with the super high-end guys.
Interesting.
And I reached out to Nico and I talked to him a little bit, and he was far more open.
Okay.
He's younger,
Yep.
and he wasn't afraid to give out some of his trade secrets.
Okay.
And him and I FaceTimed a few times. I showed him my process, and we did some things. And
Okay.
he just happened to say something one day, and it was one of those like light bulbs exploded in my head.
Huh.
And I was like, hold on, say that one more time. Like, that makes zero sense to me whatsoever, because it goes against everything I've ever learned in metal polishing.
Okay.
It completely flipped my metal polishing on its ear.
Wow.
And I'm like, something doesn't add up here. Like, everything I've learned from any polisher I've ever met in 21 years
Wow.
does not make sense in this moment right now.
Huh. Wow.
And he explained it to me the way his mentor explained it to him.
Okay.
And he told me, he's like, I'd like to give you a better explanation, I just don't know how. So when he said it, I started doing a lot more research. I reached out to my buddy locally here that's a metallurgist.
Okay.
And tried asking him, and he's like, you know what, I'll just come over sometime and we'll test some stuff out, and we'll figure out why it's working that way.
Interesting.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
sweet,
Do
let's
some
it.
science, man. Yeah.
So when Don Wood had brought us his stainless plates that are on his truck and trailer,
Yeah.
the
Gorgeous.
bumper bolt
Yep.
covers.
Yep. Mm-hmm. They look like skateboards.
Yeah, they look like mini skateboards. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when he had brought us those, and he told me, he said, Evan, everybody I've worked with so far, I've asked them for 100%, and they've given me 120%. He goes, I'm not putting that weight of the shoulders on you, but he goes, this truck is going to be something amazing.
Yeah. And it is.
I want you to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And I want you to give me 100% as well. He's like, I won't ask you for 120, but I want 100.
Yeah.
And my metallurgist came over, and Ty was working for me at the time. We spent a lot of time on those things. I want to say the better part of 150 hours on a dozen plates.
Wow.
And we just sunk a ton of time into them and tried to get them as close as we could. And we used a new process that Nico had helped us develop.
Wow.
And my metallurgist came over. I polished a couple in front of them, and we started doing temperature readings, and we were gauging the metal. We were checking the clarity, the quality, that kind of stuff, and trying to figure out how far we could take it.
Wow. And this is stainless?
Stainless,
Yeah.
And stainless, we didn't know could grade out above grade 3.
I didn't know
with
that.
a buffer.
Huh.
Like, once you get above grade 3, we thought it was hand applied only, because you have to start eliminating hash marks at some point in time.
Yeah.
To grade out at a grade 3 mirror, you're very minimal hash marks.
Okay.
As soon as you get to 2 and 1, 2 is light hash marks, but perfect clarity. Like, you could hold a mirror up and see across the room.
Yeah.
But when you get to grade 1, it's no hash marks, and you can see perfect clarity like you're looking in a mirror.
Wow.
So to get to that level, I didn't know it was possible with a grinder.
Yeah.
Well, with our new process, we actually had a piece grade out. One of the trailer one of the trailer mirrors, actually the whole group of them by the time we were done with it, but the first trailer mirror we had done, graded out at a grade 2, which is above what we even thought was possible with the liner.
Yeah.
So the only trade secret we have is the one you saw last night.
Okay.
And the only reason I haven't given that out yet is because I've had a conversation with Nico, and I feel like it's his secret to give away.
Sure.
It's not mine to give.
Gotcha.
I'm going to use it because we figured it out and we fine-tuned it now. Okay. But it is his secret to give out. After I see he gives the secret out,
there you go.
I will do a video.
Yeah.
And I will give him credit for it.
Cool.
We've put in a lot of legwork since to try and fine-tune his process and make it fit our needs.
Okay.
Because he does a lot of stuff by hand and it takes a lot of hours.
Okay.
We don't have that time in semis.
Right.
It's got to be far more efficient and far faster.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
we gotta make it work. But
yeah,
you got a little look behind the curtain last night.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And some people have caught on to it, and a bunch of people have asked. And I've helped a few of our really good guys out and explained to them what we were doing and let them try it. And they've had some really good results too. So the show circuit's going to get interesting really quick.
That's awesome.
But no, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that is awesome.
So sometimes a collaboration with somebody you barely met can turn out great.
Yeah, yep.
And
that's awesome. When you're talking about the gates slamming shut and people telling you to get bent, I have run into that somewhat in art, particularly in pinstriping.
In the pinstriping.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this.
Yeah. Where there seems to be, I don't know if it's a generational thing, where younger people tend to think all information should be free to the public at all times, and the older generation says, you either learn this on your own or you get mentored by someone, and there's a tradition that comes behind that, and they say, hey, if you want to know the trade secrets, they're dying with me, son. You know, you gotta take my place, you gotta buy my business if you want to know.
It's like tattooing, polishing, a lot of that stuff. There's so
an
much
apprenticeship
artistry
there. Yeah.
There's so much artistry involved.
Right. And I would love to be mentored by a master pinstriper. I would love that. And I know that there's lots of pinstripers out there that teach classes similar to you do. Yeah. And I'll fully admit that I have not taken an actual instructed class from a master striper, but simply watching how it's done and watching videos and things like that, just trying it on my own and learning on my own.
I will say the one thing that I can recommend to you is reach out to anybody you follow on Instagram.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just ask them, like, if I sent you a picture, could you critique me?
Yes.
Like,
and I've done that some, and it's definitely helped.
Sometimes you get good response, sometimes you get bad response.
Right.
But at the end of the day, take the good and the bad.
Yes.
Like, if they're hateful about it, take it in the chin.
Sure.
And just thank you for your time. I appreciate you. And move on.
Yeah.
Just understand that if it's not constructional.
That is part of why I left some of the Facebook groups that I was in for pinstriping. Is there was some real just closed off. There was a lot of arrogance, a lot of pride.
Oh God!
You
should join Polish's group.
Like, you should cut your hands off. It was like, that is so awful. Don't ever show that to another person.
Oh
it's
God!
Like,
you should join a Polish's group. I swear to God, it's the exact same thing.
So I said, enough of that. Art should be fun, and you guys are sucking all the fun out of it. And
polishing.
There's so many parallels. No, it's true. There's perfect parallels.
They flow in the same river, I swear.
They really do.
There's too much artistry and not enough business. I've brought it up in almost every podcast.
Yeah.
I truly look forward to the day I can sit down and have the podcast with Joe Clemente from Wheelie Polished out on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Because he is a businessman. 100% he is a businessman. He doesn't let the small stuff get to him.
Cool.
And he doesn't even really like the polishing. He just found that polishing makes him money. And he just does it because it's a business for him.
Yeah.
And he's actually fairly good at it.
Cool.
He's really good at the business side.
Sure.
And I look forward to the day where hopefully this industry keeps evolving and eventually becomes more business-like. Yeah. I don't think you'll ever get that luxury in pinstriping. But you look at the guys like Gooch.
Yeah.
Thin Lines. Even some of my local artists, Huffy.
Yeah.
You look at some of those guys and you're like, those guys are treating it as a business.
Yeah.
And I think you'll get some of those guys, but at the
Sure.
end of the day, as an industry whole, you're not going to get it as a business.
Yeah.
In polishing, I can because it's very structured business.
Sure.
But pinstriping is so much more of the art side.
It is.
That
it is.
I don't think you're ever going to fight that battle.
No. And I have found some people to be very, very helpful when I ask them, like, hey, what do you see? I maybe don't even realize that I'm doing something wrong. There again, it's probably not the right word, but what can I be doing better? And
Sure.
somebody just saying, hey, pay attention to what you're doing here. Pay attention to your pressure. Pay attention to how much you're thinning. Things like that. Like change your palette or try a different brush. Things like that.
Sure.
Just to help.
Yeah.
It's made a big difference already. So.
And I remember Huffy telling me that he ran into a lot of the same roadblocks when he first started and ended up just having to learn it on his own.
Yeah.
Grabbed a piece of glass and just painted day in and day out on glass just so he could keep erasing it and doing it over.
Practice.
Mhm.
Yep. Absolutely.
Just killing it over here. It's like flowing right through today. So, your fourth love.
Yeah. Let's keep going.
All we got left is polishing.
Yeah.
Because your family's first and foremost.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
I don't want you to have to beat yourself up in that department too much. But
my wife reminds me sometimes, you only have 24 hours in a day and something's got to give.
my wife tells me that all the time.
Man, it's like so convicting.
Because you love everything you do.
Yeah.
Your family,
Really. Yeah.
your trucking,
Absolutely.
your art,
Yeah.
and you're good at all of them.
Well, it's so much a part of me, and it's just a way to express myself, really, and it's joy. So polishing, it's something that I really love, having a truck that is shiny and that looks like it's well taken care of and it catches people's eye, and it's not my truck, it's the boss's truck, but once again it's a reflection of me, it's a reflection of who I am, and I want to look the best that I can, and I want to present myself, I want to present my truck, I want to present our company, like Brian's name's on the door. We represent Holicky Brothers Trucking. We get all of our loads through them, and so we want to represent them well and the industry as a whole. So all those things, I want to look my best, and it's a pride thing. I'll fully admit that I love the attention of having a polished rig. I really do.
Yeah.
It's just it's addicting almost. It's like once you start to get people's attention because, damn, that thing looks good, and the car's passing you in the passing lane, their phone is out looking at the truck. It's like, oh man, that feels really good.
It does.
I like that.
It does.
And there's something about the thrill of not only looking at it and saying, yeah, that didn't look good before, and now 2 hours later, I'm really proud of that. That's really sharp.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's part of why I don't really like polishing other people's stuff, is because I don't get to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I might, have polished somebody's wheels and picked up $60 or something like that, but I can't enjoy the shine.
Yeah.
It's like, for me, like, I really love being able to
do your own stuff.
do my own stuff.
That's too cool.
And turn back, and you always got to look back at your truck when you're walking away, and it's like, man.
Kenny Cryer always tells me, looking at his grill, he's going to get hit walking through a parking lot. I always look back to look at it because he's like, it always looks so good.
Yeah, man.
Like, that's too cool. And I'm glad we had this whole conversation leading into this.
Sure.
Because now people understand who you are along your path.
Sure.
Why you wear the button-ups. Why you polish.
Sure.
Because now it's all coming together. It's all making sense.
Okay.
Like the fact that you have a company truck and you're working for somebody, and you're fortunate that I'm guessing your boss actually is happy you're maintaining your own truck because it makes him look better.
Sure. Yeah, and he said that. Yeah.
And we've talked about this before we started the conversation that the boss is like, why?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the honest truth. He doesn't do that with his own trucks.
Right.
And he doesn't expect me to polish my own fuel tanks and rims and my stainless and things like that. So Brian will provide me with anything that I need to do it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But it is my own time that I'm dedicating to try and keep my truck not only clean, but polished out and looking sharp all year long if possible.
Yeah.
And, you know, in the upper Midwest, man, it's a struggle.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's work.
yeah.
It's another
It
job.
really is. I mean, we're driving end-ups and we go in some of the nastiest stuff sometimes, and I want to cry. You know, I'll be honest, there's times that I see my dispatch for the next day. My first thing I do is I look at the weather. Like, okay, is it going to rain? You know, I'm like,
I could give it a quick washer.
yeah, like, should I get those bugs off? If it's going to rain, then I got to wash. Okay, I'll wash Thursday then. And kind of my general rule is that I try and wash the truck twice a week and wash the trailer once a week. So it's sort of like I keep it on a schedule or like a regular routine if
Sure.
I can. And Brian built a shop about a year and a half ago now. We have a dedicated wash bay. And everybody just kind of knows that's Philip's parking spot as the wash bay.
2 days a week.
Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. And so he's got 2 wands in this wash bay, and it's heated floor. It's the garage mahal. I love that job.
That's awesome.
I just really do. And
That's awesome.
and so, you know, he said, hey, if you're polishing, can you try and make sure that you're polishing in the wash bay, because we have doors that we can shut. It's really, really good lighting in there, and it's awesome.
You can rinse it down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And so, yeah, I polish my own truck just simply because I love having a shiny truck. That's what it boils down to, and it's a reflection on me and in our industry. I mean, I pull a 2016 Mac, and it doesn't shine near as nice as it did when it was new. And I hate that about it, because...
Is that something you think you'll tackle at some point?
No.
You know,
I know enough now that I'm going to stay away from it.
I'm glad you're honest.
A couple years ago, I might have said, yeah. But the thing, now that I know what I know from learning from you and the experiences that I've gone through now, the trailer it's had enough acid on it, it's had enough winters on it, that I will not be happy with that trailer if I try and take it on.
Yeah.
I'm too fussy now with my own polishing.
Yeah.
I did the bulkhead on that trailer because the trailer that I'm pulling was actually laid over by a different driver.
Sure.
And so it had a couple of pieces that were replaced on the side, and it had a new bulkhead put on. Well, at this trailer shop, they put on raw aluminum.
Yeah.
And
Always do.
Yeah.
Always do.
And I couldn't stand it. For like a week later, I got out at that time I only had the variable speed.
Sure.
And I thought, you know, I got this polishing thing, and I just stood in my truck bed, and I started working that bulkhead. And I still hate the look of it now to this day, because it's tiger striped out. It was flat. I just didn't know.
It's difficult.
Yeah. And so, no. The short answer is no. I'm not going to polish that trailer. I polished the rims on
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah, but I just.
That's a lot of respect, because most people don't want to give you a definite answer.
Mm.
Nah, I think I can figure it out. It's like, it's not something you just jump into. And a lot of polishers, not even just truck drivers listening to this, but polishers that listen to this, I think a lot of polishers get themselves in over their heads and kill themselves off pretty quick too that way. But
I don't have a week's time to spend on that trailer just to make it look like I want. You know, I just.
But I will tell you, I know you're not on TikTok, but there's a guy on TikTok. His name's Gasman.
Mm-hmm.
He has been polishing on his fuel tanker, and he's been doing. I hate to call it Dalmatianing, but he does sections or spots at a time, and he's eventually working to get the whole thing done.
Okay.
But he's been doing little bits and pieces here and there.
Sure.
We call it Dalmatianing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You bring it in, you can't get it all done in one shot. It's like, all right, I'm gonna do these panels and then those panels.
Yeah.
But I see polishers all the time. They're like, they do this section, and then this section, and this section, and they all start tying it all together.
Yeah.
But he's actually doing a really good job on it, which is rare, because a lot of guys usually try it and fall flat on their face, and then they end up calling somebody else to come fix it.
Yeah.
And that's even worse.
I can relate to Dalmatianing a little bit, because for me, I have found what works on my truck is to have a rotation that I do on my wheels, my tanks, my stainless, things like that, where I may only have a couple hours or
Sure.
1 hour that I can spend doing some polishing.
Sure.
And so I might be washing the truck and I say, man, these steps are looking really rough again. It's bothering me. So I might do my steps and I might do just my steers or something like that. And I'm going to leave the dries for a different day. I'm going to leave my tanks for a different day.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that I love polishing stainless is because the shine lasts longer.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I can,
It's
it's
more
look
work
better.
up front,
Yeah.
but it's less work maintenance wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. So, like when you showed me at the No Coats Large Car show, hey, if you cut the rubber strips off your straps of your air cleaners, I was like, I never even thought of that because I was leaving,
Burn marks on it.
grease bar, burn marks, and it never occurred to me. But once I did it, it's like, yeah,
And it looks cleaner too.
Totally,
Yeah.
I love it. It never would have occurred to me to just cut those off.
Yep.
Because on my fuel tanks, that rubber is always squishing out.
Squishing out.
My
air cleaners are completely different.
Yeah.
Why?
my fuel tanks
Because
are
it's up and down instead of side to side. I don't know,
I know.
but it just
But-
works.
Yeah. And so things like that, I would rather polish stainless than polish aluminum if I could.
Yeah.
But
For what
that's
it's worth,
me.
the effort to get stainless to shine is a lot more work.
Mm.
I say stainless is like your wife.
Mm.
It takes a lot more work to keep things going right.
Oh.
It's not easy to just give it away.
Mm-hmm.
Aluminum was a lot like dating.
Okay.
Life was easy. Like,
Yeah.
everything was happy. Everything was great. Everything was simple.
Yeah.
And aluminum was a lot like dating.
Would you say aluminum's more forgiving?
Far more forgiving.
Okay.
And when you're
Okay.
dating, you're in that forgiveness stage. Like,
Yeah.
you overlook a lot of stuff because it's something new, right?
Right. Yeah.
But when you're married, you don't look over a lot of stuff.
Right.
I mean, you don't look past a lot of that stuff. You hold each other accountable on a regular basis. And stainless is the great accountability maker. Because if it's not right,
Yeah.
it's not going to give it to you.
Sure.
It's just not going to give it up.
Yep. Yep.
And stainless requires a lot of work to get it right. But once it's right, it's easy to maintain a happy life.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I use that example a lot because it sticks with people.
That's cool.
Because it's one thing you can relate to in your life.
Yeah.
If you're married or not married, you can still relate to the idea of how much work it takes to be at that level.
Yeah. Yep. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I haven't heard that. I like it. I like it.
But
Yeah.
your truck's amazing. It's a rolling billboard for you. Like, you've got a bunch of your pinstripe art on it.
Yeah.
You've got
Yep.
some old signs bent up and stuff. Like, it's super cool for me. I love that old school.
Yeah. Rat rod is just my thing. It's who I am.
And then you polish on top of it.
Yeah. So some people would say, hey, doesn't rat rod really and polishing go together? Like, rat rods aren't polished.
Yeah, it does.
So to me it does.
There's no reason
But
I can't.
yeah, I don't
It's
need
your
to
style.
have rusty steel wheels.
Yeah.
That's its own style of cool.
Right.
And some guys really, really dig that.
Yeah.
But I like, as much as I can, trying to keep, if it's supposed to be shiny, I want it to stay shiny. And
Yeah.
if it's painted, then I don't mind if it's sun faded and old and beat up and chipped. It's just it's part of its own look.
So, do you just polish for yourself then, or do you do it for other people?
Yeah, I do polish only for myself. I have done some polishing on the side for people, but it's pretty rare. Number one, just because of my time. I'm pulled in so many different
5
directions.
kids.
Yeah.
I seriously, still blown away by that.
I have so many other irons in the fire, like, my art and social media and driving 5 days a week and being a mechanic and being a husband, being a dad, all those things that I don't need more side work. I just don't. But for the jobs that I have done, I've polished for some other guys. They might roll in some wheels for me, or they want me to do a couple fuel tanks or things like that. I have done it for some cash on the side. But
It's blue collar.
right, yeah. I am terrible at telling people no.
Yeah, me
And
too.
so
I wanna
that's
see
a big
everybody
part of
happy.
it. Yeah. And somebody, they might start their request with 3 compliments. Dude, this looks amazing. You're so good at this. I wish you'd do mine. What do you say, man? And it's like, oh, you can feel that twist. And it's like, I should say no, but I don't want to say no.
You know what?
So
I'll help you out.
yeah, exactly. It's like, man, an extra $100 would be pretty handy this weekend. I've got a couple hours, and pretty soon I might think, like, okay, I can knock out 4 wheels in an afternoon, but my wife knows me well enough now that if I say it's going to take me 2 hours, it's actually probably going to take 6. You know, that's about, the time I'm going to be home and things like that. So I never have been good at selling my time well. I undersell myself all the time. I think that's an artist thing.
Yeah.
I don't value what I do at all. Not well. And so when it comes to telling somebody how much I will charge them to shine their wheels or their fuel tanks or something like that, I get that question quite often. Like, hey, how much you charge? How much you charge? And it's like, man, I don't even like having that conversation anymore because it's like it's so much easier to just say I only polish for myself. Yeah.
One thing I don't haggle on is services, or artistry.
Yeah.
You tell me what your time is worth.
Sure.
If I don't feel like it's worth that, I just won't buy it.
Right.
You know, like
exactly.
I don't feel like anybody should ever haggle somebody. If your price per wheel is $50 a wheel, I shouldn't be like, well, the other guy will do it for $25. Because his time isn't worth the same as yours. Your time is worth more.
Right.
I mean, your family time at home is priceless.
Sure. Yeah.
So whatever time you put on it and value you put on it, I don't negotiate in that department. If you tell me what your time is worth, either I pay it or I don't.
Yeah.
And I'll use your services or I don't. I feel like everybody should be okay with that.
Yeah.
Now I get it. Everybody wants to feel like they got a deal. But at the same time, who am I to try and justify what your time is worth?
Sure.
Away from your family or whatever the situation is.
Yeah. Well said.
Whether you're at home and just absent because you're doing your art. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and I think because when it comes to art, I had to set a price for, like, if I'm pinstriping, I'll say I'm going to be at this show and I'll be there pinstriping for $50 an hour. If you'd like me to do some work for you, I'll do that.
And I'll hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. We can get a lot done in 2 hours. We really can. So I had to put a dollar amount on it. And you and I were having this conversation last night about how when you're running a business and you have a couple guys working for you, you're selling their time.
Yeah.
And so when the customer comes in, they expect that I'm getting 100% of your guys' attention on this at the moment. And so I'm not good at putting a value amount on my time, but I should be. I should be better about it by now. But
you'll get better. It'll come to you at some point in time.
Yeah.
But I wanted to touch on something you said a little bit ago. You had said that you were just using the cheap compounds you could find in truck stops, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, when I first started out. Yeah.
So I will say it here in front of everybody. I can polish with anything.
Sure.
I will figure it out and make it work.
Yeah.
When people message me, they're like, I don't really want to tell you what I'm using because I'm afraid you're going to be mad because I know you have your own products. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I can polish with anything.
Yeah.
I choose to polish with what I use because I find I get better results faster.
Yeah. And
time is something I can't purchase.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said.
But when you got a question, hit me up. I don't care what it is. Just tell me what you're using so I can help develop it.
Right.
I have a polisher, and if he's listening to this, I'm going to apologize in advance. I won't use his name, but he messages me all the time. Multiple times a day.
Okay.
Every day of the week.
Wow.
And I give him free advice all the time. He has gotten to the point where his technique is perfect. The issues he's now seeing is a product issue.
Okay.
He is, much like me with my camera,
Yeah.
he is trying to outperform what his product that he's using is capable of.
Right. Right.
And he's trying to compare himself to other polishers that are filtering pictures on Facebook and Instagram. And he's trying to compare himself to those guys. And it's like, all right, this polisher says they don't filter pictures all the time. I see him post it in every post. Like, everybody's hating on me because I filter my pictures.
Yeah.
But here's the before and here's the after. It's like, okay, this picture, the tire's gray. That one, the tire's flat black. It's not because you juiced the tires. If you look in the background, the leaves are completely different colors. Like, Did you take a picture in spring and fall? Like, no, it's not even accurate.
Yeah.
Like, don't tell me you're not filtering your pictures.
Right. Okay.
So now, if you're comparing your work to them,
Yeah.
you're always going to be shooting for a target that's unattainable.
Sure. Yeah.
And this guy, he's like, these polishers are using the same product, they're getting better results. I'm like, they're not. I'm not trying to be a dick.
Yeah.
Just, I've seen that stuff in person.
Sure.
It's not what it looks like in the pictures.
Huh.
Well, I don't know. I was like, go to the show. You'll see it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
you'll get to see other people's work in person. I said, I try not to hide my hash marks in pictures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because hash marks are part of the industry.
Yeah. We all have them.
It happens.
Yeah. Yep.
Can I do stuff without leaving hash marks? Yes. It takes me days to do a fuel tank, no hash marks. Days to get it to that point.
And all it takes is one wash, and then
And it's right back anyways.
Yeah.
The guys like Nico, to get his work past hash marks, is all by hand and with very specific materials and very specific stuff. To do a fuel tank to 0 hash and absolute perfection. When guys are like, yeah, I had a polisher that did absolute perfect work, but he charged me $1,000 a tank. That's the guy. Because he's spending 2 days on one fuel tank.
Wow.
To get it to perfection.
Okay.
And is perfection reality in a truck that's going to work every day? No, because the first guy that grabs a mitt off the floor at a truck wash and scrubs your tank is going to take your perfect tank to scratched.
Yes.
In 0.2 seconds.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And even Donwood's stainless plates, those little mini skateboards.
Yeah.
As soon as you wipe it with a microfiber towel and glass cleaner, it scratched them. Like, they graded out at a grade 2, and the first show you went to, 75 chrome, and wiped them, they went from a grade 2 to a grade 3. Just because you had to clean it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So unless you perfectly polish it every time, there was just no way to get around it. So it's just kind of a little struggle.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's hard to explain.
Wow.
It's all little things.
Yeah, man. Yeah. See, I can imagine what it would be like to have a fuel tank with 0 hash marks in it, but once again, going back to the rural world, like, this is a work truck.
Yeah.
It's got to be out there driving through mud and going through landfills, and you know, like, we fuel up at some really sketchy joints sometimes, and like, put the nozzle in there and it's dripping fuel all down the side of my tank, and it's just stuff like that. It's like,
people see my cab over and they're like, I want my stuff to look like that. And I'm like, listen, that was no budget.
Yeah.
That's me working on weekends on my own stuff. Like, there was nobody telling me, like, I needed to keep it under $100 a tank.
Right.
This was just, I could do what I wanted on my own truck. And my own truck doesn't go very far. The worst it gets is a little bit of rain locally from sitting outside. Or driving to Waupun. Or driving to Louisville. Like, it's the little things like that that people don't understand that I'm not working in. And even show trucks, like most of our show guys, they're not perfect the first time you polish them. It takes 3, 4, 5 polishes to get them where I want them to compete at the bigger shows like Louisville or back when Dallas was still happening, Dallas.
That's cool.
So I tell people, like, I could tell a few times you and I had talked, you were frustrated. Like, you were hitting a stopping point.
I know it could be better. I know it should be better. And when you were trying to encourage me, like, hey, every time you do it, it's going to look a little bit better than the time you did before. It's like, oh, that took a lot of weight off. It's like, oh, awesome. Thanks, man. It's something as simple as when you were talking about sandpaper, like, what grit do you start with? I did not know that the sandpaper industry, they can put any number on there that they want.
Yeah, sadly.
Or
there's no regulation.
That there's no
checks and balances.
Yeah, exactly. There's nobody making sure. You know?
There's nobody grading the sandpaper coming off the roll.
And because I was a mechanic, I loved doing tire work. I sold and mounted a lot of tires. The tire industry was that way. They can put any numbers that they want on it and say it's that size, but nobody's getting out there their tape measure and making sure, you know. And so when you go from one brand of tire to another, there's a massive difference when you stand them up side by side with one another, and they're supposed to be identical sizes, but they're not. Yeah. And so sandpaper can be that way too, where there's like completely different grits and the way that they behave and things like that.
And the different styles.
Yeah. I mean, before you made that video, I didn't even know there's a difference between sandpaper for wood and sandpaper for metal.
Oh yeah.
Nobody ever explained that to me. It's
Right.
like, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yep.
So, if I could do any piece on my truck over again, it would definitely be the panels on my sleeper because I see the curlicues in that and the pigtails.
Honestly,
it drives me nuts. I hate it. But
it's just a resand and repolish. I know it's time consuming.
Yeah.
But honestly, you just got to work out the heavy sand
Yep.
marks. That's it.
I even, because during that process of the build of doing that sleeper, I wrote down every grit of sandpaper that I used in Sharpie on the inside of the panel just so I could remember and say, okay, I got all my sandpaper from Amazon. I clicked on whatever was available at the time, and I maybe even skipped one or two because it just wasn't available, or it would only come in a package of a roll of 500. It's like, I don't need that much. So
yeah. I get it.
So that's just where I was at in that time of my life, and at that level of being a polisher, which, again, I was learning at the time, I'm still learning now, and if I could go back and change it, it would be those pieces on my sleeper. And so that's going to be the next big project that I take on.
Sure.
Is doing a resand and repolish.
That's awesome.
All the panels of the
And honestly,
sleeper.
you did a great job on the first shot.
Well,
now that you have more experience and more knowledge, you're only going to do better on the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And I did them all in my backyard before we had riveted all the panels onto the sleeper. So now the challenge is going to be, I have to do it. I can take the doors off, and I can do those, on a table or something like that.
Sure.
But that back panel.
That back panel's not going to be hard at all.
Okay.
Honestly.
Okay, I'm going to need your guidance through it, but
I will help walk you through it, and it's honestly going to be super simple.
Cool. Okay.
It sounds worse than it is.
It's intimidating.
I know you've done it once already.
Yeah.
And you know how much work it took.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, now that you have more knowledge and you have more experience, it's going to be that much easier. Because now it's just going to be, I'll help you change your technique.
Cool.
And change it in probably a different direction. You saw some of it yesterday on that bumper I did.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
You'll kill it.
Cool.
You're going to do great. I can assure you that you have enough knowledge now that I'm confident you'll do great.
Cool.
You may struggle in a few areas, but you're gonna work through it and you're gonna figure it out.
Cool.
It's gonna be good.
Yeah. There's times that I know that I should have you watch me polish and tell me things that I can be improving on. It's still kind of intimidating to do that because it's like, man, I know that I'm going through way more rouge than I should be, or things like that.
That's one of the biggest struggles
wasting it. When I watch what you're doing, it's like, man, I'm stopping and I'm raking out and putting more rouge on, and I see a whole bunch of it flinging on the floor. It's like, I know I'm wasting this, but I can't get it to look like I want to.
Yeah.
And you're not having to do that.
Yeah.
And when you explained the difference between polishing a curved surface of a tank versus flat, it's like that was another light bulb moment for me. It's like, okay, now I get it why.
Yeah. Gotta tighten your pattern up.
Yeah.
Add a little more pressure.
Mm-hmm.
It's the little stuff like that makes a huge difference.
Big time.
And at the end of the day, technique and pattern is what makes the biggest difference.
Cool.
All right, so we only got 2 parts left, and get you home to see your family.
I hope I'm not getting too long-winded on you here, man.
Listen, I'm enjoying every minute of it, so don't don't feel too bad.
Cool.
I enjoy these podcasts have become really fun for me. It's another one of those creative outlets for me.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
I'm really thoroughly enjoying them.
Cool.
And you're one I've wanted to do for quite a while.
Awesome.
So
I enjoy listening to all of them too. I learn a lot from you and from the guys that you have on.
I appreciate all the support. And like I said, I wanted to have you on because I wanted other drivers that polish their own trucks to be able to relate to the same situations you relate to. And I'm sure you're going to have some great questions for me. And I'm sure when we get to that spot, it's gonna be interesting because we're getting somebody that is driving truck that has questions, be able to ask some questions of his own, and I'll get some questions from somebody in that spot. So that works out even better.
Sure.
But first things first,
I
want to ask you, what is the best piece of advice you could give to a trucker that's trying to maintain his own truck?
Okay. I think for me, it really boils down to having good a good teacher or just learning good technique. And for me, I know I keep going back to it, but your videos that you were making were so helpful for me that I remember you saying in a number of different videos, like, I don't care what rouge you're using or what I shouldn't say what rouge. I don't care what brand you're using.
Sure.
But this is how this is designed to work. So use this kind of grinder because these are what these are designed for, and it works great.
Yeah.
And go this direction as you're doing this, and there's some things that will make life so much better if you are willing to just observe and learn. That I think that's the advice that I would give to anybody that wants to learn to polish themselves or to up their game. If they're already, hey, I think Mike Gaffin said that they're in their company, they get their trucks polished once a year.
Professionally.
Professionally. And then after that, they maintain by hand.
Yep.
Yeah. And so there's even some things that you can watch on how to hand polish yourself to get better and to maintain that shine better.
Yesterday we were at a pawn truck show. There was a guy standing right in front of me polishing his grill, and he was going in circles. I'm like, go straight lines.
Yes, exactly.
He's like, what? I'm like, straight lines.
Yep.
He's like, why? I'm like, because you're not going to get the little swirly scratches in it.
Bingo. Yeah.
Huh. Nobody ever told me that.
See, and that's the thing. If nobody ever tells you, then how would you know? So to me, it's about learning from someone who's been there. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be a professional polisher like yourself. It could be another trucker.
Fellow trucker.
Yeah. And, like, I'll give you another example. I was going to be getting a new visor for my truck, and we went with RLK Services, Chase.
He was there this weekend.
Yeah. It was awesome to meet him.
It was awesome to see him rolling in his international.
Truck.
I love that
so
international
rad.
so much.
Me too.
And Chase is honestly one of the honest to goodness good people.
Yeah.
I enjoy seeing him at every show I go to. He now has matching shorts to me.
So where I was going with this is I picked out one of his visors, and I had another driver, because once I had gotten my visor, I lettered and pinstriped the underside of my visor, and I put it on the truck, and I was showing that on Instagram, and somebody commented like, hey, just watch those visors, they're really soft, so you're going to show scratches really easy. It's like, oh, okay, if somebody hadn't said that, I might not have thought about that, but I know from watching you that I don't want to start scrubbing bugs in circles.
Yep.
You know,
and you don't want to scrub side to side.
Yeah.
You always want to scrub up
Go
and down.
vertical. And so things like that, whenever one of my kids is along to help wash the truck or something like that, I tell them, hey, if you're going to stand on top of the engine and you're going to start scrubbing bugs in the visor, just use, go like that. Go like that. And it's something as simple as that can help you keep your truck looking great.
Yeah.
Then it's just about getting good advice and getting trained properly and learning techniques. So that's what I would say. And you can make a truck look great if you're using Wizards or Diamond or different brands. It's fine. You can still make your truck look awesome.
100%.
So it's
something is better than nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
In no matter what shape or form or the bottle comes in, something is better than nothing.
Yes. Yep. Everybody has their favorites, and sometimes you're in a pickle, and like all that's available is what's on the shelf at the truck stop.
Yep. Exactly.
That's happened too.
Yep.
And so it never fails. If I stop for the night somewhere and I want to get out and I'm just gonna wipe my wheels off or something like that, I might go get a bucket of water and something like that because I had to drive through some rain or whatever it is, and just try and make the truck look a little bit better. It never fails. There's always somebody walking by like, hey, mine's next, and stuff like that. It's like,
oh yeah,
I'd love to be able to pull out your polish or one of your products and just say like, here's a rag, man, give it a shot.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, it's fun to kind of do that in a really grassroots organic way and just be like, hey man, like this stuff works great. And I have a lot of people ask too,
Awesome.
what are you using? And it's fun to be able to help promote your business because I really truly do like your products. And so I'm not trying to snow you here at all. It's true. I love showing that on social media what I'm using because I truly do think that your stuff is the best stuff.
And we really appreciate that because
Yeah.
you're the target market for us.
Sure.
I want to be able to use all the products in my own shop,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted what I use in my shop to be what the truckers wanted to use too.
Yeah.
So we worked very hard to get our products to the level they're at.
Yeah.
I wish we could get our products cheaper so that I could make it cheaper for you guys.
Well,
But I didn't want to cheapen it down and lose the quality of our product.
bingo.
And I had hoped that people like yourself, other drivers would catch on to the fact that it's a quality product and you'll use less of it
Yeah.
than you would other products to get the results you want.
Exactly. Yep.
Bang for your buck. Our product costs more, but you will get a lot more out of it
Get
as
more
well.
out of it. Yeah.
I did
Exactly.
more demonstrations this weekend on how to properly apply our ceramic sealant for truckers.
Okay. Cool.
And a lot of it was just they wanted me to wipe a fender for them. But at the end of the day, it was getting to show them that my pickup, I used 12 sprays to do my entire pickup. All the way around, I can hit my entire pickup with just 12 sprays. And
That's pretty awesome.
some of the semi guys, after they wiped the trucks down this weekend, came back and told me, they were like, dude, I didn't use this much of the bottle of ceramic sealant. I did the entire truck.
That's awesome.
I'm like, yeah, because you applied it properly and it's glossy
Yeah.
and it looks amazing, right?
Yeah.
They're like, dude, it's way glossier than it was yesterday. I'm happy.
Yeah.
Perfect. Guys are buying, coming back and buying 2 or 3 bottles.
That's awesome.
So it was
So-
great to.
It's not just about the product. It's also about how it's used. And so they
And I
kind of
like-
go hand in hand.
And I like to believe the service we put behind it.
Yes.
Because now, when you call me and tell me you're using our products and you send me a picture, if I don't have a solution,
Mhm.
I can literally replicate your issue here
Sure.
with one of my training tanks, and I can try and develop a solution to
Yeah.
the issue.
Yep. Yep.
There's been a number of times where somebody has bought from us and hit me up and was like, hey, have you ever had this happen? My tank turned yellow and I don't know why.
Sure.
I'm like,
Yep.
all right, well, where were you?
Mhm.
What did you do? What did you use?
Yep.
Did you run through something?
Yep.
And once in a while I went to a truck wash and while my fuel tanks and wheels were still hot, I had Rain-X put on it. Turns it gold every time.
Yeah.
If they don't get it rinsed off properly,
Yeah.
it turns it gold every time.
Yeah.
And I've heard a million times that it's the gasoline in your metal polish. I'm like, I don't have gasoline in my metal polish.
Yeah.
It's a very high-end solvent. It's very strong smelling.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day,
It dries fast.
that's right.
Yeah.
I wanted it to be able to dry fast and
Yeah.
wipe off.
Yep.
And we used a high-end solvent to make that happen.
Yeah.
Awesome. Gasoline, I wouldn't be able to legally ship it around the country.
Right.
I've had people say, oh, Evan's got diesel in his metal polish. I don't have diesel in there either.
No.
It's a high-end solvent.
Yeah.
It's just green rouge in there. It's actually not.
No.
Green is
Yeah.
just one of the natural occurring colors to one of the products that's in there.
Okay.
Cool. It's all the little stuff that people think they know, but they don't because
Sure.
they've seen their
They
local
heard it
metal
from
polish
somebody
grab
else.
some melted green rouge and
Uh-huh.
put in a shot of vodka and a bunch of diesel fuel. Like, it doesn't work that way. And if it did, I couldn't legally ship it around the country and sell it that way.
True.
It
Yeah.
wouldn't be. You'd have to put flammable stickers on everything and ship it as an explosive.
Right.
You know, like
Right.
it wouldn't be realistic to ship across the country.
Sure. And so some of that goes back to the some of the misconceptions about polishers that
Right.
are out there, that you guys are selling snake oil.
Right.
And I can make my own, or something like
Right.
that.
I can melt down some green rouge. I can tell that little splotch in the bottom of this bottle right here. This is green rouge. It's not. It's not even green rouge a little bit.
Oh, and there's an agitator at the bottom.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about that
Yeah.
too, man. That was awesome.
That's
We started
one thing-
doing that. It's super cool.
It's been in there since the beginning for us. Because much like your first video you posted up, you were like, I drop a nut in there.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I didn't have the heart to tell you in your video. I'm like, there's already
There's
one
already
in
a nut in there.
there.
Now I know. I wasn't shaking enough to find it.
But then
now I know.
you put it in the second video and you were like, you did it again. You're like, don't forget, drop a nut in there. And I'm like, all right, I've seen it twice and now I feel bad. I'm like, do I private message them or do I just say it on the video?
No.
And on the video, I think I commented instead of private messaging you, right?
There's now an instant. Yeah, there's an agitator now.
I was like,
my
you just gotta
truck, so-
shake it a little longer and it'll
Yeah.
finally break loose. And once it breaks loose, you know you've shooken it enough the first time.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't let loose, it hasn't been shaken enough.
Yep.
So when you first shake it, there's nothing. And then all of a sudden it clicks.
Yeah.
And now you wait for it to go completely. And now it's mixed together.
See? That's awesome.
Before it wasn't.
If somebody hadn't shown that to me, I might not have known that. And I'm a moron. No, seriously, but it's things like that. Like, I had never known that. Are there any other products out there? Any other liquid polishes that have an agitator in them? Is anybody else doing that?
There used to be.
If you bought White Diamond or if you bought...
I think 75 Chrome shops used to... They used to have a penny in every bottle.
Oh.
And it was JP's polish, I think, at the time.
Okay.
It had a penny in every bottle, and it was your first scent made off of their metal polish.
Gotcha.
It's in the bottle already.
Huh.
It was a good marketing tool. I thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
By the time you got done polishing, that copper penny was shinier than anything. But there was some other companies that had marbles for a while. And,
sure.
I felt like marbles didn't properly agitate.
Okay.
I agreed with your statement that you put a nut in there.
Yeah.
So we put a brand new nut in every one. I feel
That's
like
cool. Yeah.
it agitates better than a marble.
I just had no idea it was already in there, but it's super cool. I thought, this is original to me. No, it's not. Somebody thought of this a long time ago.
See, we did that for years with no matter what polish we bought. We always dropped a couple nuts in there, a couple pennies, whatever. We always found something to help agitate it.
That's cool.
No matter what product we were using when we started.
Yeah.
And when we developed our own, I was like, that was an absolute must for me. It has to have an agitator in it.
Cool.
Because if I'm going to sell a product that you physically have to go to the hardware store to get a nut, you're not going to. You're going to use a rusty nut that's laying in your shop. And now you're putting a rusty nut in there.
Yep.
And now you're adding a contaminant
to
something that I believe is one of the best products and personally perfect for what I needed to do.
Bingo.
So if I got to have you put a contaminant in there, I've already lost.
Yeah.
If I can control the quality of every piece that's going in there, including the agitator, I'm already ahead of where some other companies want to be but don't have the drive to be.
Cool. Yep. It was something that I was already doing in all the paints that I use for my pinstriping.
Yeah.
You know, and there's no agitator in any of those bottles, and so I was already doing that with some of those paints. I hadn't seen anybody else do it, and maybe other people were doing that. But this Alpha 6 enamels, one of my favorite things about their paints is the flip top cap. And I know it's a small thing, it's just packaging.
Yeah.
I can get great results from either one of the two major brands that are out there. I can get great results. But when I open up that can, it starts drying out immediately, and I have to almost repackage it in my own sealable bottle.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to start drying out immediately. So something as simple as that, you've already thought through, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
You know,
and I wanted it to be as user friendly as possible. I wanted it to. Yeah. I wanted people to be able to grab it off the shelf, go and use it. I didn't want you to have to oh man, where's that nut or that marble that I keep around? No, it's good to go right out the box.
Yeah. Cool.
And that was the aim. By the time we're done talking here, I would imagine this will probably be starting to settle back out, starting to clear back over.
Yeah.
But since it's green, like I said, everybody thinks it's just green, liquid green rouge, and most good metal polishers don't work that way. You don't just melt one bar and shove it in there.
Nope.
But we finally reached the favorite part of the show.
All right.
Is you get to ask me questions. I've kept you in the hot seat all day, and now you get to flip the table and put it on me. So
right on. All right. Well, I kind of, I don't know if this is fair. I maybe have two, if that's all right with you.
Perfectly fine.
All right. So one that I've wondered for a little while. It has to do with the trucking industry and polishing, but they tend to focus, especially in the advertising and things like that, on females and on having models and having pinups and things like that. It's a part of trucking culture.
It's just part of a lot of cultures.
Yeah, a part of a lot of cultures. Yeah. Exactly.
The car community.
Exactly. Yep. And so my question for you is how do Tammy and the girls feel about that, and how does that change what you do at all, or like because you have the Babes and Big Rigs things like that in your photography. So I'm just curious, how do you manage that? How did Tammy and the girls feel about that?
I started the Babes and Big Rigs to help market my charity golf outing.
Sure. Yep.
So I have the best intentions with it to begin with.
You bet.
I try to keep it as classy and tasteful as possible, as much as possible. My wife is very understanding and very supportive in many ways. Yeah. And my daughters are also very supportive of the business. My little one is big time daddy's girl right now.
Yeah.
So she's very supportive of everything Evans Detailing Polishing.
Sure. Yeah.
So a lot of times she's my toughest critic.
Sure.
So a lot of times if the girl's not wearing the proper attire or enough attire, she hammers me pretty good on it. So they handle it well. My wife is very supportive and very understanding. I've been very fortunate in that department because it has helped us sell more calendars.
Sure.
To help raise more awareness for our event. But at the same time, a lot of the models bring their boyfriends and husbands and dad or friend along.
Sure.
So it's not a one-on-one kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's we go in groups.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
That's cool.
I've enjoyed doing it. I feel like sex sells in every market.
It does.
Which is why most people do it.
Yeah.
And
guys love looking at calendars with cool trucks or cool cars and good looking women.
And a pretty woman next to it, that's just a bonus.
Yep.
And I feel like I try to keep it as classy as possible because I know my name is still on it.
Sure.
And I feel like there's a place for trucks and girls, like pinups and classy pictures and stuff. I feel like there's a line that eventually goes too far.
Sure.
I feel like the truck shows. I don't know. I've worked with companies that used it as a marketing tool, a heavy marketing tool.
Yeah.
And sometimes it got over exaggerated, like it went too far.
Too far. Yeah.
But at the same time, I would rather put 50 detailers and polishers in my booth than 2 models.
Cool.
And I mean, no disrespect to models. I watched models bring people into the booth every day.
Sure.
Every day people came in because they wanted a picture with the girl, or they wanted a hug from the girl, or it's difficult for me because I wasn't ever that guy.
Sure. Yeah.
But at the same time, I got to see firsthand that sex sells.
It does.
And a lot of times it was, if you had a good model, it was, hey, you know what, I'll take a picture with you if you buy one product. And it was like, you trick some of the people into buying some stuff, and they were like, yeah, I'll spend $20 to take a picture with you. But at the same time, there was other times where you had a detailer there and somebody walked up and had an actual question. And it was like, the girl couldn't answer the question because she wasn't a detailer or a polisher.
Right.
It was like you lost that sale there too, because now it's just a pretty face.
Yeah.
And
interesting. I hadn't thought of that angle, but yeah.
Maybe it's just because I don't need the extra exposure, and we've gotten to a point where business is big enough that I don't have to do that. And
it's not necessary to sell your product.
I'm comfortable in where we're at.
Yeah.
Polishing's our main business.
Yes. Yep.
Selling product has also become a very large portion of our business.
Cool.
But at the same time, if you notice my Babes and Big Rigs, even if you search back all the way to the beginning, I rarely ever hashtag my metal polisher. I tag myself in the pictures just so that I get the extra exposure. People, when they look through my tag pictures, they can see my Babes and Big Rig stuff. But I don't tag at metal polisher in my commentary on Instagram. Okay. I don't hashtag Evans Detailing and Polishing. I don't hashtag Time to Shine. I don't hashtag any business stuff. It is strictly a marketing page for trucks with girls.
Okay.
during the golf outing, I use that page as a tool to help draw in more donations and more charity recognition.
Yeah. Yep.
But I don't take my business in that page.
Okay.
Because I want to keep the two separate.
It's a conscious decision on your part to separate.
Keep the two separate.
Okay.
And I feel like it's going to stay that way forever.
Sure.
If the photography thing ever does fold into something additional,
Yeah.
awesome. You know?
Cool.
But at its current rate, it's just a fun side gig.
Cool.
And my wife and kids are both understanding. If one of my daughters decides to get into modeling, I will support them 100%.
Cool.
I will probably shelter them a little more to try and filter out some of the other stuff. But
because there's some abuses to that aspect of it. You know,
100%
it's misused.
I mean, I follow a few pages because I want to see what other people are following them. So I'll just give you an example. There's a page out there where there's people that take pictures of trucks in nude form. Like, so I usually go through and I look at who liked the pictures.
Okay.
And then I read the comments to see what is this not only doing to the industry, but what kind of attention is this bringing? And who is it bringing attention to?
Okay.
So when you start looking at the people that like it and you read their comments and it's like, oh my God, the things I would do to her, like, that's not the attention I want.
Yeah.
So it really helps keep me tasteful.
Yeah.
I believe, with my pictures. We've had some a little more risque, but even then, there's some stuff that I was like, I can't use this. This isn't the direction I wanted to be in.
Yep.
And I've tested the waters a few times. I mean, we've had some girls in lingerie, and we've posted up a few pictures just to see the engagement and the response we got out of it.
Okay.
And engagement goes up a little bit, but the commentary comes down. And it's like, to me, it's not worth it to go that route. I would much rather keep it classful and tasteful. I'm a sucker for pinups. My entire leg is covered in pinup girls. My leg sleeve will eventually be solid pinups from knee to ankle.
Well, and that's traditional lowbrow art, really. I mean,
exactly.
It's hot rod culture. It's trucker culture. Yeah,
and that's
part of it.
That's the stuff I grew up loving. Was the old pinups and pinstripe era girls. Yeah. And I always thought that stuff was cool. So when I finally started doing it for myself, I was like, I am now part of that industry. Yeah. They may not want me to be part of it, but I'm now part of it, and I'm comfortable with that.
And we were talking a little bit last night too, how I think we both kind of like history, and we like I have a kind of a favorite era that I like studying, like World War II era stuff. You know, and I love antiques, and I love traditional artwork for that reason. And I have maybe put my line in a different place than you, but I don't look down on you for it at all. Right. And so I may say, hey, I'm not going to participate in this because this is where my line is. So I've turned down some work already with people saying, hey, are you willing to draw this girl on my truck? I said, actually, no, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that, but I'll refer you to somebody else who will. And that's just, hey,
I'll tell you an amazing story, because my pinstripe lady, the lady that did my deck plate in my cab over and painted my letters on my door. She's awesome. She did everything except the interior and the door jamb. That was Huffy. Okay. Karen, I had asked her when she was doing my deck plate, I said, I wanted, I saw a really cool piece years back that was a pinstripe outline of a naked lady. Yep. And I said, actually I have a bowling pin in my office, you saw it last night. I did, that has a pinstripe naked lady on it. Yeah. And I was like, I wanted that, or something of that style on my deck plate. Sure. And she said, okay. And she called me 2 days later and she goes, Evan, I'm terribly sorry, and if you don't want me to do this deck plate after saying this, I'm perfectly fine with you taking it somewhere else. I'm like, uh-oh, what did I do wrong? And she's like, good Lord blessed me with a gift, and my gift is pinstriping. Yeah. And I just don't think that the good Lord would want me using my gift to to draw a naked lady on your truck.
Huh.
And I said,
Wow.
Karen, I love the work you do. Throw the naked lady out. Draw whatever you feel is going to look good on that deck plate. And I am happy with whatever you bring me.
Wow.
And she said, are you sure? She said, I know that's what you wanted. I said, listen, I don't need it. I would much rather have a giant piece that you've done and be happy with that.
Cool.
Than have you do something that you're uncomfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Wow.
it was, for her, it was just religion. And
Cool. Yeah.
I don't look down on that either.
Sure.
So
that makes me respect her and you both more for that.
Right.
You know, for that interaction.
I
You
just
both
wanted-
handle it well.
I just wanted her on there.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
cool.
Her artwork on there.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yep.
I didn't have to have the naked lady on.
Sure.
So.
Yep. I had a little something similar. I had a guy want me to paint the inside of his visor for him.
Yeah.
And he wanted the two naked trucker girls silhouette,
Yeah.
you know, on the inside. Yeah,
I got them all over. I got one on my chest. I got one on my leg. I got one up here. Yeah.
And I was ready. I had already drawn it out, and I was ready to do it. And I was struggling, and I was like, man, should I do this? And I kind of had to have the same conversation with this guy. I called him up and I said, hey man, I'm ready to do it. I've drawn it out. My boys saw it, and I was honest with the boys and said, guys, just so you know, I'm thinking about maybe calling this guy and asking if either we can come up with a different design or I'll just refer it and have somebody else do it.
Yeah.
And so I did. I made that phone call, and it was so funny. The guy said, I actually was going to ask you to change it anyway. He said, I got 3 little girls, and I haul hogs. I really want you to do a cartoon theme of Big Bad Wolf and 3 Little Pigs.
That's awesome.
Like, all right, that sounds great. So we went Walt Disney style all over the inside of the
That's awesome.
visor. So it all worked out, you know. But
Well, that's awesome.
yeah,
I'm glad that I'm glad you had an understanding customer.
Yeah,
Because
super cool guy.
it's one of those things that like I didn't want her to compromise her integrity for me.
Yeah.
If she'd have done it, awesome. But not wanting to do it either,
Yeah.
I gotta respect that.
Right.
She was the artist I chose,
We
and
can all respect each other. We can all get along.
Yep,
So that's-
exactly.
Yeah. It's how it should be. It's fun when you see it work the right way, the way it's supposed to, you know.
I agree.
intentionally.
That's how it should be.
Yep.
All right. So
Yep.
your second question.
Okay, second question is, how do you find the balance of being a boss and being a friend? Like that to me would be very, very difficult walking that tightrope of
That's brutal.
yeah, no, I'm
All right.
pulling out
So
the big gun here.
the easiest answer is you hire a Keenan. He laughs over there because he knows it's true. Because I am the worst boss. Because I treat everybody like my best friend. I want everybody to be happy. I want everybody to be as enjoying as I am of this job.
Yeah.
And I struggle with separating friend and boss. Because I worked for enough bad bosses
Yeah.
and I hated it. And I didn't want to ever be that guy. But at the same time, it's bad business. It's very, very poor business to be everybody's friend.
Everybody's buddy.
Because
Yeah.
you have to be a boss. And I've been trying to turn that switch off a little bit. It's a transition, and it's a very difficult transition for me because I love everybody. But that's the short and shitty answer is
Yeah. It's great.
I had to hire in a Keenan because I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I needed
so you can
help.
be the muscle when you want. You can still be the nice guy.
I needed help.
He's willing to bust chops for
And
you.
I honestly took a lot of weight from Mitchell Bottomley when I was down there and I sold him a wheel machine.
Yeah.
He had pulled me aside and he was giving me a tour of his office and he was explaining what every person in his office did. And I honestly couldn't tell you too many people's names other than his wife, his shop manager, and maybe the manager of the trucking office if I had to think about it long and hard and figure it out.
Okay.
And his biggest piece of advice was hire people and not dictate their position, but have them handle situations. And when Keenan was talking about coming back, after going to Colorado for a while to help take care of his dad, that was a conversation he and I had when he came back was I needed him to be able to handle situations for me so that I could start pulling myself back and stepping into the CEO position instead of just an owner position.
Sure.
And full around business position. Because I literally wear every hat here. Yeah. And I let people borrow my hat, but I always still put it back on at the end of the day when I go home.
Sure.
And
that helps knowing where you're headed as a company. I mean, that's kind of like a part two to where I was going with this is where do you see this going in the next little while? I don't want to put time.
It's a constant moving target for me.
Yeah.
I always want to keep growing it. But at the end of the day, I want to see the product keep growing.
Sure.
Because the product is what will allow me to retire. I don't know any polishers that have retired from polishing. Every one of them has died with a grinder in their hand. I hate to say it that way because it sounds morbid.
Well,
but it's true. And I want to try to be one of the first ones that can actually retire and hang my hat up and be able to have a guy like Keenan work for me and eventually move up into the office and move up into the CEO position someday.
Sure.
Where he can hang up the grinder and he can retire and not have to hold a grinder.
Cool.
And be able to see him groom somebody else to fill his position, and that guy groom the next guy to fill his position, and watch the business just keep evolving and moving up.
Yep.
And I feel like Keenan and I have been pushing in that direction, and we've made some good headway.
Awesome.
And I feel like it's a real possibility finally.
Yeah.
So I think that is my end goal, is to be able to see Keenan take my position, do scheduling, and still polish.
Yeah.
I want to just be an employee.
Cool.
I really do.
That's awesome.
Like, I want to be able to work in the office and work in the shop whenever I want.
Yeah.
And I like working, so I will work a lot. But at the same time, like, I want to be able to just go.
Yeah. Right on.
So
great answer.
That's where we're headed.
Yeah. Well done. Yeah. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but you handled that really well.
You're good. I feel like that's what we do this for, and that's what we want.
Yeah.
And I want people to see that I really am an open book.
Yeah.
And I don't mind fielding some of the tough questions because it keeps it interesting on my end too.
Sure. Well, I've had so much fun just over this whole weekend. I mean, man, you had me stay with you in your home. I mean, I was spending time with your family.
Yep.
We were eating together. We had some great conversations. And you are the real deal. I mean, you are the same person. Like, I used to fanboy out pretty hardcore on you because I was like, but this is Evan, you know? It's like, how in the world would you have time? I never even considered calling or text messaging you because I'm like, that dude is so busy. Like, how selfish would that be for me to assume, like, I should be able to get 5 minutes of your time? And like,
I want people to see that I'm still a person.
Yeah.
A lot of people put me up on this celebrity pedestal, and I don't want it. You can throw that out the window. Text me, call me anytime.
That's awesome.
I want people to see that I'm still a person.
Yeah.
And see that I'm willing to do that. I have no issue with that. Casey Hauser, Steve Summers, Tim Cody, all these guys have been in my home. Mitchell Bottomley was in my home last night.
Man.
I mean, I hold the utmost respect for him.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Even my old home, I didn't have a spare bed, and we still rented out our couch on a regular basis to people coming through training. Like,
I so admire what you're doing, man, and I'm honored to be among those other people that have come before me. You know, to be included in that group now is a huge honor.
You're here.
Dude, thank you. This was the most fun weekend.
It'll likely be a lifelong friendship for us because
I should think so.
I don't get rid of friendships very easily.
Cool.
I'm a terrible friend. I don't call as much as I should. I don't check in with people as much as I should because I am overly busy.
Yeah.
But understand that anytime you reach out, I will always try to make time, and I do genuinely care about everybody.
Awesome. And that shows. It does.
We try.
Cool, man.
Well, it's been fun.
Yeah, it has.
And I hope people listen to this and they get as much out of it as we did because I thoroughly enjoyed this.
Yeah, me too, man. This is a perfect cap to a really fun weekend.
Really good weekend. And now you get to go home and see your family.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
5 kids.
Yeah,
That's
full house.
I had no idea.
My oldest